This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Set piece rolling by everybody. Set piece on the outside hits the front. Santine back to second along with Adamo. It's set piece and Florent Giroux. They catapulted past rivals. Set piece going to win Virginia's maiden million.
Latia, solid appeal, and here comes Dank, who's gone right past them both. It's Dank and Ryan Moore. Dank is pulling away as Europe keeps its hold on the Beverly D.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
And Beholder just getting the rein shaken at her now. Your Hilwer is running a brave 1 second. But Beholder, once again, a scintillating performance today. Just never gave them a chance. Cantering home under Gary Stevens in the Clement L. Hirsch.
And it's Stay Thirsty in front. Dominus is a neck behind, but he's fighting hard every step. Less than a furlong to go with Moonshine Mullen now third. But it's going to be Stay Thirsty who's drawing away in the final furlong. Stay Thirsty to win the Jim Dandy.
Now here's Mike Penna and Angela Herman.
Good morning once again, everyone. Welcome to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum. It is all presented by TwinSpires and all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Certainly no shortage of storylines to talk about here this morning. 8 stakes races highlight the Festival of Racing card at Colonial Downs this afternoon. Will Burnham Square still be mentioned in the same sentence as the great John Henry after today's Arlington Million? His owner, Clay Witham, will share his thoughts coming up in just about 15 minutes. Graham Motion is hoping the answer to that question is no, absolutely not. He's going to send out grade 1 winner test score against Burnham Square, and you'll hear from Graham in hour 2. Dave Zenner is also going to be here with us to walk through today's storylines from Colonial Downs, dive deeper into all of the greatest stakes action taking place. You're also going to hear from NYRA Fox Sports analyst Acacia Clement. She'll join us to talk about 6 stakes races taking place at the Spa this weekend. And trainer Michael McCarthy joins us from Southern California to remember his recently retired Classic winner journalism and look ahead to today's Clement L. Hirsch. Angela Herman, the Countess of Canterbury, good morning. Are you ready for this 3-hour show?
Well, good morning to you. And don't forget, Joe Kristufek is going to be joining us to focus on Ellis Park's Summer Showcase weekend during the TwinSpires Triple Play and all of that. If you can't catch all of it, you can still listen back to all of it on HRRM shows throughout North America on Sirius 162 and XM 207, along with our terrestrial partners and streaming live worldwide on our website, horseracingradio.net. And if you miss any of it, you can check out the podcast when it's available after we wrap up at about 11 o'clock Eastern.
Poll question for you this morning. Who is going to win today's Arlington Million at Colonial Downs? We'll keep it simple. Burnham Square. Do you like Dresden Row? Maybe the defending champion Fort Washington, not getting a lot of publicity to this point anyway. Or do you think it's somebody else? Burnham Square, Dresden Row, Fort Washington, somebody else. And if you pick that fourth one, make sure you comment and let us know who you think is going to win the Arlington Million other than those top 3. It's a big time race today. It's I think a better renewal of the Arlington Million this year than it was last year.
It's one of the best groups I've seen for the Million in a while. And although I am a little partial to Burnham Square, kind of have to be, he's got his work cut out for him. This is a whole different league of horses than he's beaten recently. And even though he's been mighty good beating them, he has another challenge ahead of him in the Million. And really, I'm not going to be surprised if that other gets a lot of love in our poll, because you could find a number of possibilities, even though we listed 3 of the live contenders in a good race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think test score is live for Graham Motion. We mentioned Graham's going to join us later on. I think test score is very live. He's already a grade 1 winner on the turf, taking the Pegasus World Cup Invitational. Can you dismiss Mercanti completely? I know that he is 5 for 20 lifetime, but he's been knocking on the door against some tough competition the last few starts. He's 12-1 on the morning line. There's a lot of ways you can go in this race.
Yes, and even the outside horse, I mean, you wouldn't think that a horse trying for 4 in a row and doing so against some stakes company along the way would be available at 10-1, but you do get that with the Saffie Joseph runner on the outside. The Chilean is looking for a few in a row, and that Gulfstream race most recently, I mean, it looked like he could have gone around again, and he's definitely one that's going to be in good position. Just another contender you could throw into there. It's a good betting race. It's going to be hopefully a fun finish and a good group assembled for the Million.
You've really liked Burnham Square for a long time, haven't you?
I'm a fan. Yes, I am. Well, he ran so well on the dirt last year. I mean, Burnham Square, I know that he's a quirky sort of horse and it's not always going to be his day, but you usually do see him coming at the end. Whether or not he gets there, usually he is putting in a pretty good effort. And as good as he was on the dirt as a 3-year-old, he's just really upped his game on the turf. And that's kind of reminiscent of his mother, Linda. But Burnham Square is still, I think, getting better and better as he goes.
He hasn't had to worry about getting there on the turf in his last few starts.
No.
He won the Elkhorn at Keeneland by 9 3/4 lengths in April, and then he dominates the Louisville Stakes in his next start by 4 3/4. Okay, so maybe he had to worry about getting there or holding on in the Chorleywood, which was shocking to a lot of people last time out. Were you encouraged by the way he did that in the Chorleywood, or were you disappointed that he didn't draw off and win by 20?
I was more so talking about the dirt with getting there, but as far as the Chorleywood, I don't mind if somebody puts a horse on the lead, especially if you got the best horse and you don't want to get stuck inside. Just go ahead and make them beat you. And even though it wasn't, the dominant win that the previous couple had been, it was still a good new dimension for him, and it showed grit right down to the finish.
Yeah, it did. He showed a lot of heart. It's not his preferred running style. Let's face it, Burnham Square is a horse that's going to settle and make that late run and come at you at the end. And as you said, he's done it on the dirt. Now he's shown that he is maybe even better on the turf, and that's saying something considering he's a Grade 1 winner on the dirt.
Exactly. And he had shown that potential, had really shown some of the elements that Burnham Square has really put together as a 4-year-old. But he's a gelding. He's still got more future ahead of him. He's only made 14 lifetime starts. So I would love to see them try to get close to a ceiling because I don't think he's there yet.
When Dale and Tim join us for I Ask, They Answer coming up at the end of the show, 10:30 Eastern, the final segment of the show, one of the things we're going to bring up is the fact that Junior Alvarado, who has been the regular rider aboard defending million champion Fort Washington, has decided to stay in Saratoga, where he's named to ride 8 races later today. He doesn't make the trip with the defending champion. Instead, Hall of Famer Javier Castellano, who's coming back from his injury he sustained earlier this meet at Saratoga, he gets the leg up from Shug McGahee aboard Fort Washington. Do you read anything into that, Angela?
At least for me, if you're giving me 8 opportunities to go after some big races and big purses, it gives me the chance to keep going through my day as it would be a normal riding day. Whereas if you go to ride Fort Washington, maybe you ride another horse or two, but really that's going to be the centerpiece of your day. And you don't want to skip any days at Saratoga, especially when they're going to be that active. So I wouldn't read too much into it. And I think that Fort Washington has been ridden by a number of other riders too that may not get along with him as well as Junior does, but he still looks like a pretty straightforward horse, so I don't read too much into it.
Yeah, Junior's been his guy for a long time. And this is $1 million race, right? That's a lot of money for a jockey. Any jockey. I know Junior wins these kind of races. I mean, obviously he's a top rider, but this is $1 million race, and you decide, I'll stay at Saratoga, ride some maidens. I know he's in great stakes today too, but
yeah, it's really, and maybe he took one look at the field and said, whoa, this is a little bit tougher. I like my chances at home a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that's what I'm saying. Does that make you downgrade the chances of Fort Washington based on the fact that Junior says, nope, I'm staying home?
I don't think so. I don't think that you would really downgrade his chances, especially considering Castellano picked up the mount. It's not like anybody that's getting in there is unfamiliar with winning giant races on the turf, riding for Shug McGahee, anything like that. So I don't read too much into it. I just think that Fort Washington, regardless of who was in the saddle, really has a tough task.
He is one of 2 horses for Shug McGahee in the million. Integration also returns in this spot this afternoon. Integration is a horse that on his day is extremely tough. He rarely runs a bad race, doesn't win as often as you would like, but he's a very consistent horse, and he's been knocking heads with Grade 1 company ever since last year's Arlington Million.
And had the lead that day. Just Integration has come across some tough company really for a long time. And that optional claimer 2 back, it was an optional claimer in condition only. That might as well have been a stakes race. That was a nice group of horses. And Integration has been keeping that classy company and still firing his best shot just about every time. And he can handle off turf as well. He's run unyielding courses. I don't think it's his favorite, but he has got better with that a little bit with age. So you can't count him out in just about any scenario. And he's going to be a little bit more betting value, I would guess, than Burnham Square.
I know you're sentimentally hoping it's Burnham Square, but let's take that out of the equation. When you get down to nuts and bolts, let's say Burnham Square doesn't run his race today. which other horses are you looking at to win the Arlington Million?
I'm curious how Dresden Rowe is going to take his act over to Colonial, because he's just been good since coming back from Woodbine. You always have to wonder if they are just a lover of Woodbine, if they love that surface, if they love that configuration, or if they've progressed as a horse. And it certainly seems like he has very much progressed throughout his 4- and 5-year-old campaign. And it didn't really disappoint me that he finished third last time in the Wise Dan. I thought that he had his excuses. He had to rally wide. I just think that he probably has some more steps forward to him. Is it a big enough step to beat Burnham Square? I'm not totally convinced, but I think being on the inside and keeping himself in close attendance to the pace might give him an edge in that respect over Burnham Square.
We mentioned Acacia Clement joining us. She'll be with us right around 9 o'clock Eastern time this morning. And looking forward to that visit, because there is plenty to talk about there. The 6 stakes races, 3 today, 3 tomorrow at Saratoga, including that rescheduled Keeneland from when Saratoga had to cancel racing on Wednesday because of the torrential downpours. And my goodness, if you saw some of the videos that were coming out of there, our own Tim Wilkin sent out a video or a picture, of the situation outside of Bill Mott's barn. It looked like a lake outside of his barn.
It seems like more and more as we go through our summers and some of the big summer races, Mother Nature is really making her presence felt, whether it be with storms, whether it be with rain, whether it be with heat, whether it be with smoke. It's just become so much more of a factor in not just handicapping today, but trying to factor that in down the road. Oh, was it a soft turf course, or had it rained 18 inches in the past weekend? It was a bog. You just have to think about all of that going forward too. And I love Saratoga, but this has just made it even more difficult to keep track of that on top of all the good horses that run there too.
Only 5 horses in the Jim Dandy today, but it's a solid group of 5. If you were to pick 5 horses outside of the Derby winner and say, okay, let's get these horses together and see what we come up with. Commandment, Renegade, Silent Tactic making his return for Mark Casse. You have Chip Honcho, the winner of the Ohio Derby last time out. A lot of people looking at this race on paper saying, hey, he gets the rail. He could be lone speed, could be tough to catch. This is a solid group of 5.
And as much as, we want to talk about this field being a little bit more about quality and not quantity, it's been cool that a lot of the 3-year-old stars in this group, no matter what you think of the class as a whole, have come out to play in these sorts of races. And this is what they're supposed to be for. Even if you don't have a field of 10, give me a field of 5 like this, rather than a field of 10 with some horses who have just broken their maiden or something like that. You have, well, with the exception of the one maiden, you do have some battle-tested horses that are very, very good in these circumstances. So this will become a rider's race too. You have to factor that into the Jim Dandy and see where the pace does set up, because somebody is going to have to go with Chip Honcho up front. Who will it be? We find out.
4 of the last 5 winners of the Jim Dandy have gone on to take the Midsummer Derby, the Travers Stakes about a month later, including Sovereignty last year. If you were to look to one of these horses in this race today and say, okay, if they pass this assignment, yes, they are very likely to go on and win the Travers in a month's time. Which horse are you looking at?
I'm kind of looking towards Renegade just because of, I don't want to say the bad luck. He hasn't had too much hard luck, just the good efforts that he's put in, maybe without that big W that he's been looking for. I guess that his connections have been looking for, because the races that he's run have been worthy of the victories, but he's just been a neck short in the Derby. And I mean, in the Belmont, I just thought he had a shot. Maybe we can forgive him for that one and see if the Renegade that was there before comes back to play, because he'll be tough to hold off.
Brad Cox adds blinkers to Commandment today. Does that make a big difference?
I would think so, but I don't know how much different of a race he's going to run. Maybe it'll just increase his focus down the stretch. You can put blinkers on a horse and you can work them fast, but that doesn't mean that they're going to have much more natural early speed. So I would just think that maybe it'll keep him to the task at hand down the stretch. It's going to be a good finish, I think, between him, Renegade, Silent Tactic. All of them are going to be coming late, but it's going to count on luck. Maybe who can stay a little bit closer and not take the starch out of their kick.
Silent Tactic really is the wild card in this spot, isn't he?
You got to see where he's at. His feet have been such a problem. No foot, no horse. And if Silent Tactic is in this spot, we're going to assume that all of the feet are 100%. He still has to step up his game, though. If you're a numbers person, even if you look at the 4 lengths between him and Renegade, we haven't seen him since. So Silent Tactic really is going to have to be cranked to go in order to beat these, not to stay with them. I would think that maybe Silent Tactic will get a lot out of this race going forward, though.
A loaded show, plenty of things to talk about, including the Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question. We will challenge you with it again this morning. Lee Delapina has it for you right now.
Thanks, Mike and Angela. This week's Impossible Trivia question is brought to you by Mojo Racing Partners. Get your mojo working at mojoracingpartners.com. The Jim Dandy Stakes is named after the legendary long shot who pulled off a 100-1 victory over Triple Crown winner Gallant Fox in the 1930s Travers Stakes. Out of 141 career starts, how many races did Jim Dandy actually win? No Googling. We'll give out the answer at the end of the show.
5.
Hey, that was supposed to be my guess. Stop it.
That's what I'm going with. I have no idea if I'm right, but I'm gonna go with 5 for Jim Dandy.
We got over 100 possibilities for a guess, so I'm going to formulate mine a little longer since you took my first guess.
Yeah, really good question. We appreciate it. The answer comes your way at the end of the program, right around 10:55 Eastern. Okay, here's the full guest lineup for you this morning. Clay Witham just about ready to join us in a couple of minutes here to talk about Burnham Square. Dave Zenner from Colonial will be with us right around 8:40. Acacia Clement, 9 o'clock. 9:20, you'll hear from Michael McCarthy joining us from Southern California. We'll talk to him about the career of journalism and look ahead to the Clement L. Hirsch this afternoon. Graham Motion right around 9:40. 10 o'clock Eastern begins hour 3 with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Joe Kristufek will bring you 3 races to watch and wager on this afternoon. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20, and at 10:30, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, I Ask, They Answer. That's all ahead on a loaded edition of the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Get ready for the biggest night of the year at Charlestown on Friday, August 28th. It's the Grade 2 $1 million Charlestown Classic and the Grade 2 $750,000 Charlestown Oaks, the richest sprint race for 3-year-old fillies in North America. The spectacular card features 9 stakes races worth over $2.7 million. The action gets started with a special first post time of 5 o'clock Eastern. It's the Grade 2 Charlestown Classic and Grade 2 Charlestown Oaks on Friday, August 28th here at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races.
Will you accept the Breeders' Cup Challenge? The chance to compete against the best in the world? The chance to race for a piece of over $34 million in purses and awards? The chance to prove you belong on racing's biggest stage? The chance to become a champion? Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race gives you that opportunity with an invitation to horse racing's biggest event of the year, the Breeders' Cup World Championships at Keeneland, where finish lines become the start of a legacy and starting gates shine on the world stage. Win a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race and earn a guaranteed starting position in a Breeders' Cup race. Entry fees paid, a $10,000 nominator award, travel incentives, and more. Here, winning a Challenge Series race is just the beginning. See the full schedule of races around the globe and learn more at breederscup.com/challenge.
When a racehorse runs at full speed, the lungs are exposed to extraordinary stress. With every stride, powerful negative pressures pull air into the lungs, placing strain on delicate pulmonary blood vessels. These forces are one reason exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage occurs in racehorses. Flair nasal strips help support the nasal passages and reduce airway resistance, lowering the work of breathing and the negative pressures transmitted to the lungs. In controlled studies, Flair has been shown to reduce the severity of EIPH. Flair nasal strips. Performance starts at the nose.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Everyone's looking for that John Henry to have him, that 7, 8, 9-year-old gelding that's around and running every year and having fun with. And you're always looking for him, and hopefully I may have him. He's not a finished product, that's what I keep saying. You know, there's a lot of improvement in him, and one of them is physically. As he matures more, he'll get physically stronger and better. And then also mentally, he's a tough horse to ship. You know, that's why I'm being very cautious with him. about not shipping him too much yet. This year he's come back and he's shipped really well, where last year he was nervous. He would run his stall all day. You couldn't do anything keeping, and he still would run good off of doing that. So I'm trying to get him to handle everything right in how he approaches the race. And I've got into a nice routine with him right now. So, later in the year, we'll test him some more. The waters will get deeper and he'll have to put his running shoes on there and be at his best behavior.
That's trainer Ian Wilkes talking about Burnham Square. And if you are a turf horse in North America, the deep waters of the Grade 1 Arlington Million are a perfect proving ground to see where you are at this point in the season. And Burnham Square, 5-2 on the morning line this afternoon. We will know if he has continued to develop and mature the way that Ian and the connections hope that he has. We'll find out later today. But now his owner, Clay Witham, Witham Thoroughbreds, joins us here this morning. Clay, do we possibly have the next John Henry on our hands here with Burnham Square?
Well, we'd like to think that it's possible. It'd be exciting to get a horse that could be that consistent and come out year after year and be a top racehorse.
Ian made those comments on this show May 23rd. That was just after Burnham Square had won the Grade 3 Louisville. That came on the heels of him winning the Grade 2 Elkhorn at Keeneland by 9 3/4 lengths. So at that point, he was just dominating the competition. And then he came back as the heavy favorite in the Chorleywood June 13th at Churchill Downs and wins by a neck. But a lot of people liked the way he did it that day. How about you?
Well, we were certainly just happy to get the win that day. But I think that he did show something, and that is that the way that race played out with nobody going at the start and him finding himself right up there on the front or right and second at the early stages, and he never relaxed. So he didn't get that race shape that he got in the Louisville and the Elkhorn, and he was still able to win against a tough horse. So it wasn't pretty, but he got it done.
Clay, he's now 6 for 14 lifetime. He's earned more than $2.2 million, nearly $2.3 million in his career so far. His 5 turf starts have resulted in 3 wins and 2 seconds. When you think about this ride that Burnham Square has taken you on throughout his career, what things come to mind? What's it been like?
Well, he's been he's just such a fun horse to watch and a fun horse to be around for us. He really has surprised us. We talked about this early on when we got started with him. We weren't really sure what we had, and like most horses, they like to run, but this horse he really tries hard. I'm saying he doesn't. He's had a race here or there that it wasn't his day, but I think other than maybe one race. Every race, whether he won it or not, he is always coming hard at the end. And in his very first race at Keeneland, we like I said, we didn't know what we had, but we saw the way he finished that race, and we were pretty excited about him.
I have to agree. He caught my eye pretty early on. He was kind of my derby horse, and he reminds me a little bit of his dam. Of course, she was good on dirt, but she really took a big step forward on the grass. At what point in Burnham Square's dirt races did it maybe interest you to switch him over to the grass?
Of course, everybody has derby fever if you have a 3-year-old that's on the derby trail. So, we certainly were going to see that through. But in the back of our minds, we knew that the dam, just what you said, she was better on the turf. And Liam's Map is such a versatile sire. He's about, I don't know, I don't have the statistics, but he gets just as many top level turf horses as dirt horses. So, with that pedigree and that family, we were looking forward to trying him on the turf.
And when you did move him over to the grass, of course, he did go a bit further at Kentucky Downs. What did you think in the Nashville Derby when he finished off the way that he did? I mean, he was north of 13-1, which wasn't a common occurrence for him up to that point. But then it took a little while to get back to the races with him. Tell me about that time in the Nashville Derby and since then.
Yeah, so the Nashville Derby was the first race that we put him on the turf. And, of course, being a 3-year-old, you're only going to get one chance to go run down there at Kentucky Downs. So we threw him in a tough race right out of the gate. And really, he just ran that race that I've seen so many times that, boy, you're not sure. He likes to lag back there and come at it as a closer. And boy, he came running, and that race, it's running second is nothing is a good thing. You should never feel bad about running second. But he came running, and he had a really good chance to win that race. And the way he ended up on the outside of that horse, and they were kind of coming out a little bit and broke his stride a little bit, race riding. And even after that, he was still coming back again at the finish line. So we were very proud of him, and we've just been really proud of this horse.
Talking with the owner, Clay Witham, here on the Equine Forum on HRRN, Burnham Square. They're entrant today for Ian Wilkes, 5-2 on the morning line in the Grade 1 Arlington Million. Clay, every year when this race rolls around on the calendar, I think back to Arlington Park in Arlington Heights, Illinois. And I've told the story a couple of times on the show that this was the first race, the Arlington Million, the first race that we ever broadcast on HRN outside the state of Kentucky. That was all the way back in 2005. So it's a special race to me. When you think about the Arlington Million, what are some of your favorite memories?
Well, it really is a special race. And when Ian was throwing out the John Henry thinking, so that obviously John Henry has a special connection to the Arlington Million. He won the very first Arlington Million, and he won it twice. But we actually won the Arlington Million in 1991 with a horse that we owned an interest in. Tight Spot was that horse. I don't know if you remember him. So there's another connection, John Henry connection there as well. Ron McAnally trained Tight Spot, and Ron McAnally trained horses for us, for my mom and dad, for years and years. So obviously, if we could get the next John Henry, we would tell Ronnie McAnally, hey, this is all right. We like having the John Henry. But we have a connection to the Arlington Million, and so that makes it exciting.
He's definitely got some similarities going to John Henry, some foundation to get that way. But we did hear Ian talk about the way that he ships. So tell us about how he's come into Colonial and how you think he's going to settle in and run his race.
Well, he's been a interesting horse to ship, and I've been there when we put him on the van. He's out at Skylight at Ian's training center most of the time. So even if he's shipping in to run it at Churchill, he gets a little van right in there. And, he's got a little bit of a reputation, and when he gets on the van, for whatever reason, he likes to hear his feet rattle against the side of the van. So, you're kind of cringing when you hear this boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And, he's thinking, oh, man, this isn't going to turn out good one of these days. But from what Ian said, he's shipped to Colonial great. We got him his own personal emotional support animal. So he has a goat that hangs out with him these days. And, since he's had the goat, he does not kick the trailer when he travels in the van. So so the goat, he's going to earn him a nice bonus if we win this race.
I heard the goat is named actually for his kicking ability. Yeah.
Yes, he is, and the guys at the barn there, they're the ones that named the goat. The goat is Messi, and Messi is the goat. So there you go.
Championship goat for a championship kind of horse. I like the vibe already.
Nice.
Clay, we were worried about Burnham Square shipping into Colonial, and ironically, it's you that's had to scratch from shipping to Colonial.
Yeah, I was planning to go to Colonial, and I've been battling some allergies for the last couple of days, and just didn't feel like climbing on an airplane this morning. So we've got plenty of representation. My brother Barth and his wife are there, and my son Travis and his wife. So we've got a rooting section there.
The next generation. I love it. Clay, we're going to let you get some rest, but before we do, what things has Ian discussed with you that give you the confidence Burnham Square is up to the task this afternoon?
Ian has had confidence. That is the main thing. He's had a lot of confidence in Burnham Square, and he says he's doing good. So it's a great field. It'll really be a test. I mean, when I first looked at the entries there, it's like, man, every one of these horses is good. So it'll be a test.
That's a big test, and the water's deeper, as Ian said. You expect that at this time of year if Burnham Square can pass the test and join two-time million winner John Henry. Who knows? Maybe we are looking at the next John Henry to come along in thoroughbred racing. We will find out later today. Clay, really appreciate the visit, my friend, as always. Get some rest and enjoy Burnham Square this afternoon.
We'll do it. Thank you.
You got it. Clay Witham here on HRRN. When we come back, going to continue to stay at Colonial. We'll talk to Dave Zenner. He is the Director of Racing and Simulcast Operations at Colonial Downs. We'll visit with him and go deeper inside the Arlington Million and the other stakes races on the festival program this afternoon. That comes up next, right after your Legends of the Turf.
At beautiful Hialeah on a warm, pleasant Saturday afternoon in February of 1956, a banner field of thoroughbreds went postward for the running of the highly prestigious Widener Handicap. The winner's share of the purse was to be $92,600. In that super field of 9 horses that were to answer the call to post were Sailor, Find, Social Outcast, Man of Destiny, Nashua, and an invader from Venezuela, El Chama. There was an all-time record crowd on hand, 42,000 plus, breaking the previous high watermark for attendance by some 5,000. The previous largest crowd had been on Flamingo Day in 1955, when Nashua won that event as a 3-year-old. Most of those on hand, many of whom jammed the paddock area with cameras, came to catch a glimpse of the Sonny Fitzsimmons-trained Nashua, who had Eddie Arcaro in the irons and packed a top weight of 127 pounds. There were a number of critics who felt that Nashua had worked too fast just a few days before the race, having clocked a 2:02 flat just the Tuesday previous to the race at Tropical Park. That workout had been necessitated by a very heavy strip at Hialeah. Still others doubted that Mr. Fitz could bring Nashua up to a winning effort under the heavy impost against a very tough handicap field at 1.25 miles after having been off the racetrack competitively for 4 months. Nashua appeared to be highly keyed up in the walking ring. Arcaro admitted that he was ranked right up until the time the field loaded into the starting gate. The strategy was no doubt for Arcaro to drop Nashua off the early pace while stalking the early leaders and then make that one big run. There were other notable closers in that race, however. Alfred G. Vanderbilt's entry of Find and Social Outcast were both highly capable of making late runs. So, at least in theory, it would become a cat-and-mouse game with the rating and judging of pace being most critical. At the break, it was Sailor going out to the front, but Arcaro was forced to let Nashua have a little bit more of his head than he would have liked, since his mount was virtually pulling Arcaro out of the saddle. As it turned out, Nashua stayed head-and-head with Sailor through the early going, and the question became that if that early rapid pace with Nashua's top impost of 127 would in the long run take its toll on the crowd favorite. Not only that, but the well-noted closer Find was right there lurking in third, waiting to pounce.
Sailor was the first to succumb to the pressure of the early fractions, and Nashua assumed the lead as the field swung on around the far turn. Fine had not given up the chase and was hanging right with Nashua as they hit the top of the stretch for the final 2 furlongs. It was Nashua, Fine, and now Social Outcast was making his big run as expected from well off the pace to get up into contention. As they came to the final 16th, it was Nashua hanging tenaciously to the lead, with Arcaro getting everything he could from the strapping colt, then Fine, Sailor, and Social Outcast, who was charging out in the middle of the racetrack, gobbling up huge strides. Nashua stayed on gamely and courageously in front to the wire, barely holding off the flying Social Outcast by a head, with Sailor only another head back and Fine fourth, just 3 heads back, in a classic example of the well-known blanket finish. It was, by any measure, means, or standard, a great horse race indeed. One of the stewards, Cal Rainey, said it had been the very best horse race he had seen in 20 years. That win by Nashua, the big son of Nasrullah out of Segula by Johnstown, put Nashua over the $1 million career earnings mark, and he thereby joined the illustrious Citation as the only other horse up to that day to reach that lofty mark. A blanket finish and a victory for Nashua in the Widener Handicap, February 1956 at Hialeah. A great moment indeed in thoroughbred racing.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
And Built puts his head in front, and he quickly starts the sprint clear. Him is chasing with determination into second. Damon's Mound along the inside. A 16th pole, and Built is powerful in the Alfred G. Vanderbilt. He won for fun.
Built, the son of Darley Stallion Hard Spun, scored impressively in the Grade 2 AG Vanderbilt at Saratoga last weekend. That dominating win makes him your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Hard Spun. Built became Hard Spun's 4th graded stakes winner this year. No stallion under 100,000 has more. Learn about Hard Spun and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
Live racing is back at Ellis Park Racing and Gaming. The 25-day summer racing season runs through August 23rd with racing every Friday through Sunday throughout the summer with a daily first post of 11:55 a.m. Central, featuring many of racing's top trainers and jockeys and a record $4.125 million stake schedule across 18 races, including the Summer Showcase weekend August 1st and 2nd and the Ellis Park Derby Day August 9th. You won't want to miss summer racing at Ellis Park. For more information, visit ellisparkowensborogaming.com.
The Scott Mallory consignment at this year's Fasig-Tipton Saratoga sale consists of 4 outstanding individual offerings, starting with hip number 8, a yearling out of 2-year-old winner Laurel Canyon by the outstanding sire Bolt Doro. Hip 40 is a filly out of graded stakes placed off topic. Hip 215, a filly by legendary sire Curlin out of the grade 1 producing mare Hard to Resist. And hip 220 is from the first crop of Forte out of multiple stakes producing 100% winner producer Ice Women. Don't miss these outstanding yearlings offered by Scott Mallory in Barn 5 at Fasig-Tipton, Saratoga.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They turn for home. Shining Copper with 3/16 to go. Shining Copper leads by a length. Shining Copper here's up with the birds coming up the fence. The Pizza Man finishing now. Big Blue Kitten charging on the outside. The Pizza Man has taken the lead. The Pizza Man on the outside. Big Blue Kitten. Chicago's about to erupt. The Illinois bred. The Pizza Man just won the Arlington Million under Florent Giroux. Big Blue Kitten was second, and Shining Copper finished third.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, Angela Herman, the Countess of Canterbury. We are with you up until 11 a.m. Eastern. That was John Dooley with the call of the 2015 renewal of the Arlington Million, one of my favorite millions and one of my favorite calls, the Pizza Man. Chicago was about to erupt, and boy, did they ever, when the Pizza Man, the Illinois bred, got the victory that day. And this is now the 22nd consecutive year I get to welcome our next guest to the program on Arlington Million Morning. He is Dave Zenner. He is the Director of Racing and Simulcast Operations at Colonial Downs. It goes all the way back to our very first visit to Arlington Park in 2005, our first broadcast ever outside the state of Kentucky on the Horse Racing Radio Network. And Dave Zenner, for the 22nd consecutive year, happy Arlington Million Day, my friend.
And happy Arlington Million Day to you as well. When you started playing that clip, I just got a big grin on my face because I think outside of the inaugural million, that might be the definitive call of all of the races. With all due respect to Kevin Gomer and Kurt Becker and Jason is calling it now, who are all fantastic callers. That one was just, what a great call. What a great call. What a great race. What a great moment for the Illinois breeding program.
So many incredible moments and so many memories that come back on this particular morning every year. I was just talking about that with Clay Witham. Every time this date rolls around on the calendar, I start thinking back to that broadcast position we had next to the pristine paddock at Arlington and all of the wonderful guests that stopped by. Our friend Alistair Donald was there every year. Just so many horsemen that would make their way by. And then, of course, you and Dan Leary and the team made us feel welcome right from the start.
And it was our pleasure to do so. It was great to have you guys there. We had you kind of exiled in the corner back in the old days when we couldn't just plug in. When we couldn't just plug in and turn on a computer. I think we finally got you moved to a front side position in about the 20 teens. But we got you up front finally.
I didn't mind that view of the paddock, though. My goodness, I missed that view.
Yeah, I think we all do. But we're really excited about the races today. I mean, I think the whole card came up well. Not only the 3 graded stakes races, but the undercard races for $100,000 and $150,000. Did you check out some of those undercard races?
It's a great day.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
And then you've got all the low takeouts, the all-stake multi-race wagers. So set the scene for us. What can horse players expect?
Well, it is really a great day for horse players because we've got, like you said, we've got the early and the middle and the late pick 5s. They're all 12% takeout. The middle one is all stakes. We've got, I think, 4 pick 4s on the card, including 2 of them that are all stakes. And then we've got the Old Dominion pick 6, which is all stakes this year, the way the card fell. And we have a carryover going into 13,000. So, we expect to be a nice pool there. And that's only a 15% takeout. And then the last 3 races, so it'll be the Beverly D, the Million, and the Getaway race. We'll have the late $3 pick 3 that has a 15% takeout. So really a good day for, as our British friends would say, punters, to enjoy the day and, catch some shots to really, make some money. And the field sizes are pretty good. Not too many scratches, at least in the big 3 so far. And, we're excited about that.
Well, not often that you can line up 8 stakes races in a row. And like you said, the dynamic fields that are in all of them. You mentioned some of the wagers that are linking all of those together. So tell me about the day itself out there at Colonial. I mean, how's the weather shaping up? How are things playing? I mean, just how are things as a day out there?
Well, Michael appreciates this. I think Dick Justice will have something to do with the weather today because it's absolutely gorgeous. Mid to upper 80s, but not a whole lot of humidity. Clear skies, fast tracks, firm turf course. Like Arlington, the turf course is so wide we can split it down the middle. So the rails are at 0 and 60 feet with the Beverly D and the Million at the 60 feet position and the Secretariat at the 0 position. Gates open here at 10:30 Eastern time. There is still general admission available. It's $5 if you're anywhere near Richmond, Virginia, New Kent, Virginia. Please stop on out. We'd love to have you for the day. A lot of festivities going on. There'll be bands on a band stage out in the park area, and then several roaming bands throughout the days. We're celebrating the history of the million, including the great jockeys, owners, and trainers who have won the races over the years, and the countries that have won the races over the years. So really going to be a spectacle. If you can watch on whatever service you have, please check it out. We'll have a lot of that will be on the simulcast feed. Some of the simulcast feed will obviously we'll have the replays for the folks watching in simulcast land, so they can take their trip notes for later.
You talk about some of the connections that do come in for these races, and you get quite the star-studded cast on the equine side and the human side of things. What's one of the stories on the human side of things that stand out to you in this year's million card?
Well, I think what stands out are just, you mentioned it, the names of the people that will be here. I mean, you've got a Graham Motion, you've got Cherie DeVoe, who of course made history this year, and we got top jockeys coming from all over. Paco's riding here regularly, Manny Franco's here, Javier Castellano's here. Not Johnny V, of course, Brian Hernandez. So you got a lot of big names that they're not always here. Todd Pletcher's got a couple of horses entered. Bob Baffert, names you don't often have here every day, are here. So the local fans really get a chance to see some of the top barns, some of those top connections around the country. We've got really good racing here on a day-to-day basis, but this just steps it up, a couple of notches for sure.
Dave, there are storylines in those undercard stakes as well. We're going to have the Million, the Beverly D Secretariat take most of the headlines, and rightfully so. We'll talk about those in a minute, but there are stories on the undercard, and you talked about some of those races. One of those that stands out to me is a pretty fast 3-year-old filly that's on the undercard.
Yeah, well, I'm flipping through my program all of a sudden.
Mashallah,
yeah, she is. Yeah, she is fast. I think doesn't she have? I think the fastest buyer for 3-year-old turf filly or something like that.
Yeah, she freaked.
Yeah, she freaked. I mean, if that race is not just a fluke, she could air this field, and it's a good field besides her. The undercard just in general for the 100K is just I'm kind of flipping through the rest of the program here. You look at the race that follows the Ray Count. You've got some graded stakes place horses and graded stakes winners, and for 100K, 150K, you don't usually see that. But if you're throwing one on the van to come down for for the grade 1s and grade 2s, and you got a spot, you may as well take a shot, especially if you got a horse that's trying to get back into shape, looking for something down the line.
I said this is one of the more competitive millions, in my opinion, one of the more well-balanced, quality-laden fields that we've seen in a little bit. I think it's stronger than last year's Arlington Million, top to bottom. It continues to evolve every single year, doesn't it?
It does. I think it's starting to, take its hold here, in Virginia. I think people know it. People know it's here now. Yes, it's a couple of weeks earlier than it's been typically, but everyone knows in, early August, you're pointing to the Arlington Million, the Beverly D, and the Secretariat. We lack a little bit of the international this year, but I think we more than make up for it with the horses that are in. You've got the defending champion, Fort Washington. You've got Integration, who won here a couple years ago. And, of course, Burnham Square, who it's always funny to say cut back to 1.25 miles in this day and age. But, yeah, cutting back to 1.25 miles. Ian had said to, I think he was talking to Nick Tamaro or Khalid Francois on TwinSpires, and he said, this will probably be the shortest he'll go the rest of the year. It'll be 1 3/8, 1.5 miles. So, can he, is 1.25 miles too short for him? And you just kind of chuckle when you hear someone say that.
I would agree with that part. And we talk about the evolution of the Million, but tell us about the evolution of Colonial, because things have really grown leaps and bounds out there now on the Derby Trail in the last few years. What's coming up next? What should people watch for, Colonial?
We don't know our dates for next year yet, but, obviously a Virginia Derby in the springtime, and that's really become a signature event. As far as, we probably get more people on Virginia Derby Day than we'll have today. We'll have a lot more betting today because we'll have a lot more national interest in the card today, and the overall card is a little bit deeper, of course. But the Virginia Derby is starting to, get a foothold in the spring. I think people are starting to notice it. Hopefully we get a listed coming out of this year, maybe even a grade 3 coming out when the graded stakes, first year of eligibility will be next year. Get some of that, and of course you've got the 50 Derby points and the large purse was $500,000 this year. And we're just growing. And I mean, with the additional HHR machines, for every certain 100 HHR machines, we had a day of racing. So we're up to about 50 days of racing. From when I started here back in 2019 on the seasonal basis, we had a 15-day meet. So now we're running almost 50. We're going 4 days a week. We're running on weekends again, and people are starting to pay attention to us, I really think.
Dave, the 2 races preceding the Million, the Grade 2 Secretariat for the 3-year-olds and then the ladies in the Beverly D. Those races are always competitive. Solid fields again this year. Good size fields as well in both of those races, so those should be exciting and good betting opportunities. Graham Motion is going to join us coming up at 9:40, and I was shocked when I was preparing for the conversation that Graham Motion has yet to win the Million. He's yet to win the Beverly D. He did win the Secretariat a couple of years ago with Trickery, but here's a guy that's as good as it gets with turf runners, and it just shows you how difficult it is to win those races.
Well, for the Beverly D, for all those years, nobody could win except Chad. So,
yeah,
he kind of cornered the market on. But yeah, it really is surprising that Graham hasn't won either of those races. And maybe this is the year he picks up one of them. And he's such a great horseman, and he's such a big supporter of the Colonial program. He doesn't necessarily have a big stable here, but he's shipping in and out. He's already got a couple of winners this meet, and he's got that great South African filly, or mare, I should say, Give Me Another, in the Beverly D, and it's just, in the Beverly D, and he's got Test Score in the Arlington Million, and both of those horses, they fit. They're not the first one that you're going to, point a finger and say, give me a horse. That might not be the first one that comes to mind, but both those horses have very big chances today.
Yes, they do. And those are just a couple of the big stakes on the day. Tell me more about the Secretariat, because there's a big field for the Secretariat. I don't know if there's going to be too clear-cut of a favorite. What did you make of this race?
It's probably the toughest of the 3, I think, as far as, handicapping it down. We do have one scratch in the race. The 8-horse Redland Rebels will not participate. You've got a heavy morning line favorite in Alpeland, but I think he's beatable. Turf Star is one of them I look at. You got to scratch your head about what happened in the Belmont Derby last time, but that was probably a tougher field than he's facing today. And then you've got Cherie DeVoe's Supercharger, coming off a big allowance win, and it's just it's a good race. And Mike, you'll appreciate Alpeland, though, for one thing. Won the American Derby, of course, last time out. The American Derby and the Secretariat, of course, were 2/3 of the old Mid-America Triple. So, has a little bit of sentimental value for me there, but 9 to 5 doesn't have that value for me.
Yeah,
so sentiment aside, I have to look elsewhere. But, wouldn't be surprised, obviously, to see that horse win. And the Beverly D, we did have a couple of scratches there. I can let you know that Venetia, the 1, number 2, Daisy Flyer, and number 10, Storm Miami, aren't running. And we knew a couple of those were running at Saratoga, especially when they recarded the race for Sunday. We kind of knew that they might be staying up there. But, Stellify, a very, very strong one. But I really do like Graham Motion's mare, Give Me Another, and that's where I'm going there.
I'll be sure to let him know when he joins us at 9:40. You picked him on top.
I don't know. He might not like that. If you look at my record the last few years.
Yeah, I know the feeling, my friend. All right, before we let you go, recap everything that's coming up this afternoon at Colonial, the wagering opportunities, some of the low takeouts. Just fill us in one more time.
First post, 12 noon Eastern. We've got 3 pick 5s. The pick 5s are 12% takeout. There's an early one, and the late one is all stakes. And there's a middle one that has some of the stakes in there. And then we've got 4 pick 4s today. 2 of them are all stakes. And then we've got the Old Dominion 6. That's a 15% takeout. That covers the last 6 stakes, culminating with the Arlington Million with a $13K carryover coming in. And we've got the late pick 3, $3, 15% is the Beverly D, the Million, and what we all call the getaway race over the years.
Dave, I'll give you one more million that stands out to me that I'm never going to forget. The Tin Man in 2006.
Yes, another the old veteran there, along with John Henry, winning it at such an advanced age, just so great to see, and that's what I love about turf racing. The turf horses tend to stay in training a bit longer than the big name dirt horses. So, you can kind of develop a following and say, yeah, I want to see where this horse is going next, as opposed to, well, he's won this, he's going to the shed.
Dave, 22 consecutive years. I appreciate it, my friend. Thanks for all your support and really appreciate you joining me again here. Here's to number 23 next year.
I've got it penciled in already. Talk to you soon.
We'll see you, buddy. Dave Zenner, Director of Racing Simulcast Operations Colonial. And, a lot of storylines outside of the big three, Angela.
Man, and if you weren't excited to bet that card before, you should be now. Got a lot of opportunity to put together some of those horses. And like he talked about, the big names are all coming together for Arlington Million Day. And they do make for some very good races, not just the stars. I mean, the undercard, like he mentioned, is solid. And it makes for those good wagers and it makes for good opportunity because they have them dispersed throughout the card to where you can churn. You might have an awfully big budget by the time you get to the graded stakes. So make sure you take a look at everything in that Colonial card because it's long, but it could be very profitable.
We'll step away for a quick break. When we come back, we'll get you ready for Hour 2. We'll tell you what's coming up in Hour 3 and update you on today's poll question results. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
All over America, people are taking the national radon test. Have you? Excuse me, have you heard of radon?
Is that a gas?
Is it something that comes up out the ground or something?
It's like poison gas. Something dangerous that you're supposed to check on to make sure it's not in your home.
Now it's your turn. Answer true or false. Radon is a radioactive gas. True. Radon is a radioactive gas. True or false? The Office of the Surgeon General recommends that all homes be tested for radon. True, your home should be tested.
I didn't know that, no.
True or false, radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. True.
True, I didn't know that.
Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. Answer true or false. Homes with radon problems can be fixed. True. Homes with radon problems can be fixed.
So what do you do about it? I'm going to dial the number and call.
1-800-SOS-RADON. If I don't take care of it, nobody else will.
Keep your family safe from radon. Call now.
1-800-SOS-RADON.
Half of young adults are at risk of hearing damage from loud sounds. So why is this happening? We know not to bake in the sun for hours and to get our eyes checked regularly. We buckle up to save lives. And we know that smoking kills. So do poor diet choices and poor life choices. But why are we so reckless with our hearing? We take hearing for granted. Hearing damage from loud sounds is permanent, but preventable. We take common sense steps for our health every day. Let's make hearing part of it. Wear earplugs. Turn it down. Give your ears a rest. Love your ears. Learn more at hearinghealthfoundation.org. Keep listening.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
And the field turns for home. It is Favorite Trick. The leaders, they come to mid-stretch. Under a hand right beneath Pate, Favorite Trick. Now he says go, and Favorite Trick responds in an instant. He opens up by 3.5 lengths. Dawson's Legacy, the Canadian second, Souvenir Copy third. Here is an undefeated champion, Favorite Trick, and he ran like a champion today, winning by 5. And a pair of long shots, finishing second and third, Dawson's Legacy and National Lord.
Tom Durkin with the call of Favorite Trick, crossing the line in front for an 8th straight time on his way to Horse of the Year honors in 1997. Win 5 in that streak was the Saratoga Special, one of a few races that we're going to talk about in a moment from Saratoga. Graded stakes coming your way from there, but maybe you've already dug into your breakfast, you got your coffee, you dunked your donut. But if your dinner plans are still up in the air, Mike has the answer.
Yeah, great segue. Great segue. Yeah, Tony's of Lexington. If you're in the area, Lexington, Kentucky, anywhere close to there, make sure you get over to Tony's of Lexington. Doesn't have to be tonight, although that would be fantastic. But make your reservations now if you're going to be attending any of the horse sales coming up, if you're stopping by any of the breeding farms, if you're just visiting Kentucky for any reason, or maybe you're going to be there for the fall meet at Keeneland or the Breeders' Cup too. Make your reservations now. They are accepting reservations for the meet and for Breeders' Cup week, but you'll want to do it. They are filling up fast. Tony's of Lexington, the best steak you're going to get anywhere in the world. I can promise you that. And wonderful people, great atmosphere. Check them out. Tony's of Lexington on Main Street, right behind Rupp Arena.
Oh, I've heard great sweet potatoes, too, so I do have to get there at some point.
Yeah.
But we still got Saratoga to talk about.
Bourbon whipped sweet potatoes, by the way.
Oh, I forgot the best part. I'm so sorry, Tony's. I'll make sure I include that next time. Bourbon whipped sweet potatoes, but it's not time for that yet. We still got to talk Saratoga. You know, Favorite Trick did win the Saratoga Special, but win 11 for him was the Jim Dandy. So we still got a lot to talk about. All of that taking place at Saratoga today. But before we move on to there, we got to stay at Colonial. We have to take a look at the poll results. Mike, how's it looking?
Yeah, so far we were asking you which horse you feel is going to win the Arlington Million today at Colonial. And we've had plenty of conversation in the first hour of the program so far with Clay Witham and with Dave Zenner. Gave you a few choices. Burnham Square, Dresden Row, the defending champion Fort Washington, or someone else. And if you choose that one, make sure you comment to let us know who you think is going to win. So far, 73% of HRRN Nation is saying it's going to be Burnham Square, who delivers a winning performance this afternoon. You can continue to vote at HRRN on X, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or if you don't do social media, email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, to let us know your vote.
I'm on board with all the voters of Burnham Square, but we'll see how it does turn out. That's a tougher field than it looks. I'm a little surprised he's got that much support.
Me too.
But it gives me a little confidence. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, 73%. I expected this to be a little – I'm not surprised that he's the one that's leading the poll. I'm just surprised that he's running – this is an Elkhorn-like performance from him in the poll question here this morning.
I guess so. I hope that does follow through in the afternoon. We shall see with Burnham Square, but I really think he's coming into this the right way. And it looks like he's going to be at least involved and be on the board. I know he's not going to be that bettable, but I really think he's going to put in a big performance, and he's got to prove that he can beat the very best, and they're lined up in the million.
The water's deeper for Burnham Square here today.
Definitely. I would say so.
All right, well, those are the poll questions for you here this morning. Hour 2 continues next. Acacia Clement will join us to talk about Saratoga. 3 stakes races today, 3 tomorrow. We'll talk about those. Michael McCarthy coming up at 9:20. We're going to visit with him about his outstanding Classic winner journalism, who, it was announced last week, has been retired to Coolmore. And then Graham Motion talking more Colonial Downs at 9:40, and a loaded third hour, which we'll tell you about in just a little bit. We're back with hour 2 right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Mike Penna, Angela Herman continuing on. 1 hour down, 2 to go, and it has been fast moving so far. Going to continue that way here in the second hour of the program. We shift gears from Colonial to Saratoga, and you think about what's happening at Colonial, right? And you think about those 8 stakes races and then the 3 greatest stakes, 3 good greatest stakes at Saratoga today too, Angela.
Yeah, and we worked in Tony and his stakes in the middle of it, too. So a lot of stakes going from hour 1 to hour 2. But we always have a lot to cover through the summer. That's what this is all about. So we got to dive right into that. And it's very fitting that we do move over to Saratoga. It's the site of the trivia question as well.
Yeah, I liked your commentary about the Saratoga Special when we heard Favorite Trick winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and you said during that year he also won the Saratoga Special. The Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question, we're going to update you on that here in just a minute. But before we do, we want to get to our next guest. We don't want her to wait because it's a busy day for her. Acacia Clement joining us now live from Saratoga. Acacia, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Doing great. I can't resist. Every time I have you on the show, I have to say it like that.
Yeah, that'll follow me for the rest of my life.
How are you?
Good. We are plowing through this longer Saratoga meet. So big day. Looking forward to the Jim Dandy and all the stakes and everything coming up this weekend.
Before we get to that, how are you feeling, Mama?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yeah, exciting news there. I can't wait to meet the little guy.
Thank you. We're very excited.
Yeah, fantastic.
Very special news.
Fantastic. Let's talk about the stakes races today. Jim Dandy, Lake George, Saratoga Special. Where do you want? Let's start with the Jim Dandy because that's the race that a lot of people will have their eye on because of the 3-year-olds. Really, I know it's only 5 horses, but it's a strong group.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of the right horses that you want to see. Unfortunately, Golden Tempo bypassing the Jim Dandy, but is in Saratoga and pointing for the Travers. So he's kind of waiting in the wings, which is exciting. So it will be interesting to see as you have the Jim Dandy today. And then because of weather, the rescheduled curl in tomorrow on Sunday. So we'll get a chance to see how some of the 3-year-olds look and potentially moving into the Travers.
Hi, Acacia. Angela here. First and
Hi.
foremost, congratulations. I'm so
Thank
happy
you.
for you. But we do have to get back into the racing, and I have to ask you about the Jim Dandy. How do you see, with using the Jim Dandy from a wagering standpoint, I want to use maybe 1 or 2 horses in there, but we go from the Lake George to there. Which 2 do you think you could narrow it down to in the Jim Dandy, maybe if you were going to make a ticket?
I'd probably go Commandment and Chip Honcho. I think Chip Honcho maybe is not quite as good as some of the others that he's going to be facing in here, but tactically has an advantage. He does look like he should be the most forward, and he has the rail, and wouldn't be surprised if he's the controlling pace in there. And he is coming in off of a win in the Ohio Derby. I loved Commandment in the Belmont. I thought he ran really well. It just beaten by a horse that just was a little bit better, and I thought that he did not have the ideal trip in the Kentucky Derby and moved a bit too early. The blinkers going on Commandment, Brad Cox saying that's to help him with the turns, and even if you watch the Belmont, you see that he does kind of float off the turns a little bit, so I think that equipment is interesting, and to me he is in many ways the horse to beat, and I think we're always going to see horses like Renegade be a bit over bet, and I think Commandment is the one that you want out of the Belmont.
And you get to see all of these guys up close and personal. You've got to see their development through the spring. What do you make of this 3-year-old class overall?
Well, it's definitely a group that I think has taken a little bit of time to sort themselves out. I was one of the ones in the camp that was a little bit against Golden Tempo after the Kentucky Derby. He proved me completely wrong with a huge effort in the Belmont coming from last once again. A lot of the best horses of the group are deep closers. So it is kind of interesting because you always wonder how the trips are going to play out. But I think it's interesting. You know, last year you had a very key leader of the pack in Sovereignty, and then horses like Journalism and Baeza who are kind of knocking on the door. And I think since the Belmont, we've seen Golden Tempo become that big leader. But before that, it was a little bit more wide open. And I still think there's a lot of room for growth moving into the Travers. There's still a lot of big races to come for these 3-year-olds. And it's a lot of fun to see how they've continued to develop.
Mark Cassey is having a really strong Saratoga meet. What do we do with his silent tactic in the Jim Dandy?
Well, he is coming in fresh, and he has that, which the other horses in this field don't. They've been running pretty steadily. So Silent Tactic hasn't run since finishing second in the Arkansas Derby. He's a horse that ran very well down through that series at Oaklawn. To me, I felt going into the Kentucky Derby that those were some of the softer fields overall as far as Kentucky Derby preps were concerned. I felt fairgrounds and especially Florida Derby preps were a lot stronger. So that was kind of where I had been leaning. So that's still a little bit of a question for me with Silent Tactic. How does that form really stack up? He was a well-beaten second to Renegade after hitting the front in the Arkansas Derby, and is a horse that I think needs to show that he can continue to step forward. But he's fresh, and as you said, pretty much every weekend it feels like we're seeing Mark Casse with a Grade 1 winner with some incredible horses, and of course has Nitrogen waiting in the wings to take on the boys in the Whitney next week.
I'm looking forward to that. I can't forget about her. I mean, it's hard with all the star power that's up at Saratoga, but some stars of the future are going to be making their run in the Saratoga Specials. So tell me more about this group, because we need your insight on all of these 2-year-olds that you've seen and what you think of today's race.
Yeah, it's a fun race. I think that Booked is kind of the leader of the clubhouse right now. Steve Asmussen, always dangerous with his 2-year-olds. This is son of Yopon, who has just been a tremendous sire, and I thought he was really impressive winning the Sanford last time out. He's still a bit green. He never switched leads in the stretch, and I think he's still kind of figuring things out. And Steve had even said that to me after the race, that, yeah, we still have some things to work on. But he's very good. You saw some really impressive debuts from Flight Command. I don't know what was behind him that day, and I think it's going to be a really big acid test this afternoon for him, but he's obviously a son of Flightline. That was super impressive on debut. And then How's Al today for Riley Mott? I thought not the most ideal trip, and visually was pretty impressive winning at first asking at Churchill. So maybe the figure is not quite as fast, but a horse that I would definitely keep an eye on as one that could move forward.
That's such an exciting part of Saratoga every year. You start to see these youngsters get their careers started, and whether it's in a race like this or you start to see some of the development that and some of the stars of tomorrow, as Angela was alluding to, Acacia, and it's just one of the really neat things about Saratoga.
Yeah, it is. It's always exciting, and I think, so many people you see kind of gear their horses up, and people want to win with 2-year-olds at Saratoga. It's just kind of the dream that we all kind of hope for at this stage too. But it's important to watch these races with the horses that don't win, and maybe ones that just needed a race mentally or physically or want to go longer distances, and you see how they develop a little bit later on. Not every horse can be ready to win early on in the summer at Saratoga, and sometimes these races are kind of preps as well that you have to keep an eye out for. So it's really interesting, I think, from top to bottom to watch all of those trips and to watch the development. I've seen a lot of really good horses start their careers at Saratoga and go on to do really good things, whether they won or not.
That Grade 2 Saratoga Special, 6.5 furlongs, post time 3:20 Eastern as race number 6 on the 12-race program this afternoon. Race 9 is the race preceding the Jim Dandy. We talked about the Jim Dandy. Now let's talk about the Lake George. It's a Grade 3, 1 1/16 on the inner turf. What are some of the key storylines to keep an eye on here?
Well, as always on the turf, you're going to have Chad Brown, and he has a couple of a horse coming in off of a layoff, I should say, in Deep Learning, who was very impressive winning first time out at Saratoga as a 2-year-old. Talk about those debut races. She hasn't run since November at the end of her 2-year-old season, and I remember talking to Chad at the end of the year, and he just said that he felt that she wasn't really going the right way and was not going to push her to try to make the Breeders' Cup, even though she could have potentially gotten in. And that seemed to prove to be the right decision. She won the Chelsea Flower that weekend instead in New York, and then has had some time off, but coming back. But she did run a very fast race on debut. Trouble trip in the Natalma where her post really hurt her. They were doing the construction with the turf up at Woodbine at that time, so it was a much tougher trip being drawn outside last fall at Woodbine than it would have ordinarily been. So she's really intriguing coming back off the bench in here. I do think that there are a couple of other really fun entrants in this race. I found it very competitive. Lion Lake for Brendan Walsh is a horse that's been knocking at the door her last several starts. She's got to break through and win one of these days, but I thought that all the dirty work last time in the Wonder Again being forwardly placed, and then we'll see if Time to Dream can get back on track after cutting back in distance. And after trying the Belmont Oaks. She was another one that was really exciting as a 2-year-old, and I still wonder if we have really gotten a chance to see her step forward as a 3-year-old.
Outside of those 3 graded stakes this afternoon, is there another horse or maybe another storyline that's caught your eye that you're excited for later today?
Well, there's several really good 2-year-old races on the card. I think there's 4 2-year-old races, which should be really fun. Race 7 is a 1.125 mile allowance that looks like a mini stake race. I'm really interested to see what Fastmaster does for Todd Pletcher. Ran a very fast race and on a wet track at Churchill last time. We saw Todd get the win yesterday, finally getting that elusive dirt win that everybody was ready to write him off for the summer. But I'm very interested to see what that horse does, stepping up to face winners for the first time. And he's got some tough-knocking veterans in that group as well. So I think that's a really fun race on the card, too.
A lot of maidens, a lot of looks to the future in there, but we had to wait a little bit for the curling on Sunday. Let's jump over to the return of Chief Wallaby. Not an easy task, but he's going to be the 4-5 favorite on the morning line. What do you assess of his chances in the curling?
Well, I do think that he is the horse to beat in the curling. I felt that on Wednesday when they rescheduled the race because Wednesday racing was canceled with the weather. It did become an actually bigger field on Sunday, so that's good for people betting. You had a couple of additions in there as well. Bill Mott has said, though, that even if Chief Wallaby does win the curling, he likely will not go on to the Travers, staying with races 1.125 miles and shorter, which I think is interesting, and that had kind of been my thought with him when looking at him at the Belmont, that he probably wants to go a little bit less ground than some of the other 3-year-olds in this class. I would be interested to see him cut back to 1-turn mile at Belmont in the future. But he's obviously the class of the field, and excited to see what he does. His third start with blinkers now and getting out of the Derby in Belmont, but I do think his future says shorter distances.
How about the Adirondack tomorrow for the 2-year-old fillies, Acacia? Anybody in there that's caught your eye?
Yeah, I thought that was a really fun race as well. You know, you see a lot of new faces coming in from out of town to take advantage in that group. There's, to me, kind of no real heavy standout like a booked that we will have with the boys today. Mark Cassey sends out Perrette, who is 2 for 2. She won the debutante at Churchill and has been really impressive so far. So it looks like he has a really talented one on his hands. But even some horses locally that have run well, Luminous Beauty, who disappointed in the Schuylerville for Jenna Antonucci last time out, but she didn't get the lead, and I am curious to see what happens if she's able to be forwardly placed in this spot again. And as far as the number 6, Scarlet Begonia for Brad Cox, I thought her debut was very good as well. She was a short price that day at Ellis, but I think she's really interesting coming into Saratoga. So fun to see which filly will take a step forward.
And we've also got the 12-furlong Grade 2 Glens Falls Stakes as part of that program at Saratoga tomorrow afternoon. Acacia, before I let you go, you mentioned Nitrogen next week. Give us a quick glimpse into some of the other top contenders looking to take her on.
Magnitude, obviously going to be the big one. Dubai World Cup winner coming off of another really impressive win. Jose Ortiz did choose to stay with him, which makes sense. He's, I think, really kind of the biggest name moving forward. It could be a really good group. I believe Sovereignty pointing to the Whitney as well. So really looking forward to seeing how that stacks up. But kind of the Magnitude Nitrogen matchup, I think, will be a really fun one.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, as will the coverage later today on Fox. Acacia, fill us in on what's happening.
We're on Big Fox from 3 to 6 today. So we have all those stakes in that block. And we are on the entire day, though. We have every single race on FS1, FS2 throughout the afternoon. So it'll be a long day, but a really fun one.
All right. Well, I know you'll be busy. Really appreciate you taking a few minutes, as always, here this morning. And, again, congratulations on everything to you and to Miguel.
Thank you very much.
You got Acacia Clement here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. And by the way, you heard me introduce her, Angela, as Acacia. It's kind of an inside joke. When she was working with us, we were her first horse racing media job here on Horse Racing Radio Network, and she was with us for a few years, and it was so great. And she was applying for an apartment rental. And when they called her back, the lady who was running the apartment couldn't pronounce her name, and she kept calling her Acacia. And so it kind of became a thing, and I just started calling her Acacia from that point on. So now you know.
I knew there had to be a story behind it, but I don't think anybody is mispronouncing Acacia. She is one of the shining lights out there in New York. It's great to get her thoughts on that. I'm so happy for her and Miguel, and appreciate the time and talking to us about Saratoga.
Well, we need to update you on the Mojo Racing Impossible trivia question here this morning. So, Angela, do the honors.
Yes, of course. The Mojo Racing trivia question for this morning, not an easy one. We've already taken a swing at it, but see if you can answer this one. The Jim Dandy Stakes is named after the legendary long shot who pulled off a 100-1 victory over Triple Crown winner Gallant Fox in the 1930 Travers Stakes. Out of 141, yes, 141 career starts, how many races did Jim Dandy actually win? No Googling.
All right, before we get to our next guest, Michael McCarthy from Southern California, he's going to talk about journalism. He's going to look ahead to the Clement L. Hirsch this afternoon. But before we get to that point, one more note about Saratoga. As everybody knows, for a long time, our official charity here on HRRN has been the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund, the PDJF. And there is a PDJF fundraiser event tomorrow in Saratoga, August 2nd. It is called Jockeys on Tap. It is at the West Side Sports Bar and Grill, 6 p.m. Eastern. You want to make sure you stop by there if you're in the area, rub elbows and hobnob with some of your favorite jockeys, and maybe even raise a glass with them too. Who knows? But you'll have a good time, and it's all for a wonderful cause. You can learn more by going to pdjf.org. Michael McCarthy is next here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
Get ready for the biggest night of the year at Charlestown on Friday, August 28th. It's the Grade 2 $1 million Charlestown Classic and the Grade 2 $750,000 Charlestown Oaks, the richest sprint race for 3-year-old fillies in North America. The spectacular card features 9 stakes races worth over $2.7 million. The action gets started with a special first post time of 5 o'clock Eastern. It's the Grade 2 Charlestown Classic and Grade 2 Charlestown Oaks on Friday, August 28th here at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races.
It takes hard work to power Virginia's horse industry. Farmers cultivating the land, businesses supplying farms, truckers hauling feed, trainers prepping racehorses, and thousands of workers across the state. These are the unsung heroes of Virginia's economy. They strengthen Virginia agriculture, reaching beyond the racetrack, powering farms, jobs, and communities. Because when the horse industry is strong, agriculture thrives, and Virginia wins.
Since 2000, Millridge has raised or sold 43 Grade 1 winners, a remarkable achievement considering 39 of those were raised on the farm. The Millridge consignment at the Saratoga sale has been a terrific source of Grade 1 winners, with Seize the Gray the most recent classic winner.
Seize the Gray! Oh, Hammock Torres seized the day to win the 149th running of the Preakness.
This year at Saratoga, Millridge offers 4 yearlings in the open sale and 3 in the New York bred sale, with inspections beginning at Barn 5 on Friday, August 7th. Millridge, raising and selling racehorses.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Journalism is getting closer now. He's behind a wall of horses. He's looking for a place to go, and he's got nowhere to go. Oh, he bumped hard with Goal Oriented. In the meanwhile, Gosner's running the race of his life, and Sandman has entered the scene, and he has moved up on the far outside. the Preakness Stakes in a performance like you read about.
That's Larry Colmus with a call of one of the more memorable runnings of the Preakness Stakes you will ever see. Journalism capturing the race last year, a campaign which came to an end after the San Diego last weekend, a career which came to an end. You heard that call on the show last week after the news came out that journalism would be retired to Coolmore, and we play it again because now we get to meet the man who guided journalism through that campaign that ended with 7 victories from 14 starts, more than $4.7 million in earnings. He is trainer Michael McCarthy, and he is with us now here on HRRN. Michael, appreciate the visit.
Thank you guys for having me on.
As you're listening to that call, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. There were a few things that were going through my mind. When they turned up the backside, he had kind of lost contact with the field. I was upset with myself because I thought maybe I had misjudged the horse, and even though he was eating, training like a bear, acting like himself, I thought, maybe coming back in 2 weeks isn't the best thing for him here, and he's showing it to us right now. They get to the 5/8 pole. Umberto takes him kind of off of the fence, and he really doesn't seem to pick up the bridle. Keeps after him for another furlong. Coming through the half mile, he starts to engage a little bit, gets to the 3/8 pole, and at the 3/8 pole, I'm starting to think, well, maybe he puts up a decent effort, or knowing the horse himself, at least gives it a solid try. Coming to the quarter pole, it looked like he was going to go ahead and surprise me again and put in a run from the quarter pole through the wire. Things got awfully tight when the 3 horses kind of met each other. The first thing I thought about is, I hope my horse is okay. Then once he was able to kind of break free from that and started running again, I thought to myself, I can't believe he's going to put up another big effort and have nothing to show for it. And then in the last 6 jumps, I can't tell you, I'm not sure how that happened, but, he was able to get his nose down at the wire. Just an incredible effort, It just goes to show you what kind of horse he was and the constitution he had, you know what I mean? Crazy day. The horse had a flair for the dramatic, I guess you could say.
Now, there's no doubt about it. Michael, I would often describe journalism much the way they described Seattle Seahawks running back Marshawn Lynch. They called him beast mode. And I use the same term when I referred to journalism throughout his career. I'm curious what words you would use to sum up everything you saw from him.
Gosh, I've never really thought about that. I would say he was driven, professional, courageous, athletic. I could keep on going on and on. Horses like him are like the 1%. They don't come around very often. He was so impressive in the way he trained and the way in which he moved. To have to pick up and fly all over the country for races and stuff like that is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. To be able to get on, nearly a dozen flights and fly all over the place, different racetracks, different settings. That's a lot of stress on a horse, and it never bothered him at all. So he was just kind of like the complete package, he could do it all.
Well, in that vein with he could do it all and all the great characteristics you described, because he is a gorgeous, gorgeous horse. You're going to get to train some of his offspring in the future. What would you like them to have of his characteristics, and maybe what would you like to get left behind with journalism?
His brains and his disposition would make it awfully easy to start with. Horses like him that are willing to go ahead and train in all different types of settings, work with horses, inside of horses, outside of horses, be easily manageable, coachable, trainable. That makes a trainer look awfully good when you've got horses that do that without issue. Each one of them has a little bit of a different personality and a different disposition, but he was so straightforward, did anything you asked of him. He really was, just a complete package.
When you have a horse that means that much to you and to your career and to your team and to your owners, for that matter, Michael, when it is time to make the decision to retire that horse, and this was not the plan, of course, it happens because of an injury, but when it comes to time to make that decision, how difficult was it to make that final call and say, yeah, we need to be done?
This injury, a high suspensory issue, was probably something that would have resolved itself in about 90 days. Of course, as you know, at this time of the year, you miss out on major prep races, major grade ones, you most likely miss out on the Breeders' Cup Classic. So it takes him out of the second half of his 4-year-old year. The horse had accomplished some incredible things, taken people to incredible places, myself included. I think the behind the scenes, the exercise riders, the grooms, the hot walkers that are with the horses every day, I think for me, it's almost a little harder on them, having them not have that anymore, and guys, arguing over who's going to walk journalism, who's going to ride him, even though he had the same exercise rider basically every day, Mark Witkowski, except on work days. There were a lot of constants with that horse around Barn 59 and Del Mar and wherever else we went. So sad to see him go for those guys. A lot of fans, people loved watching him. He always drew a crowd wherever he went. He was an impressive physical specimen. And always looked the part. So those types of things, they'll be hard to kind of replace. But you know what? We're going to enjoy going ahead and trying to find the next journalism.
I can say I'm a fan of journalism myself, and I will miss him at the races. I do have to ask you, though, before we let you go, I know we don't have too much time, but Simply Joking is going to be running a little bit later. And Simply Joking is a filly who's been very impressive with her speed. Now, she did win very impressively, too, back in the Santa Maria. She's had a little bit of time since her most recent race. How's she doing coming into today?
Yeah, she's trained very well. A little bit of a ludicrous opening half mile in her last start. We'll make sure we don't make that same mistake again. Wasn't really pleased with the way things panned out, sort of set it up for Almond Joy that day. But, we'll bounce on out of there, try to find ourselves forwardly placed. If someone is intent on getting in front of us, then we'll let them do so and sit right off of them. But she's a filly that seems like she's trained well down here in Del Mar, and a grade 1 would look awfully good on her resume.
Yeah, Simply Joking's pretty darn good. We'll see if she can deliver another winning performance coming up in the Clement L. Hirsch. You get that rematch with Almond Joy, Michael. Do trainers get pumped up for these kind of rematches?
I guess you could call it a little bit of a rematch. Obviously, we'd like to turn the tables, as I said. Hopefully just race shape turns out a little differently and we don't go 45 and 2 for the opening half mile here. If we do go 45 and 2, at least we'll have a little less distance. We're minus the 16th, going a mile into 16th this weekend, mile and an eighth like we did last time. But be nice if we could turn the tables on her. She's a very nice filly in her own right. Almond Joy.
Michael, I'll ask you one last question before we let you go. Last weekend, Formidable Man comes up with his usual strong effort. He comes up just a little bit short after a troubled trip. Tell me what you saw from him.
Yeah, I saw a horse that just kind of never really got into a groove, never got the trip I was sort of looking for, kind of a stalking trip inside of horses sitting behind the pace. And we were always kind of caught out wide a little bit, and I think that made things a little bit difficult on him. Dove down inside the eighth pole and just was beating the neck for the whole thing. But, yeah, that was a tough one to swallow. But we'll be back, and he seems like he's come out of the race very good. So plenty of options with him.
Michael, tremendous job with journalism. Congratulations on that particular run. It was absolutely sensational to watch, and you did a masterful job. And best of luck with Simply Joking and all the other horses you're going to be sending out over the next several weeks. Appreciate the visit.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Michael McCarthy here on HRRN. You know, anytime, listen, it's what? Early in the morning, right? 6:20 in the morning or something on the West Coast. So anytime we get somebody like Michael to take a few minutes and join us, Angela, it's so appreciated because they're so busy working, all these trainers at this time.
Oh, I know. The action is just nonstop at his barn. I'm so glad that he could take a couple of minutes and talk to us, not just about what's coming with Simply Joking, but take a look back at one of the stars of his stable, and really one that we've all got to know, because journalism not only has put in some solid races over the years, but some of the most exciting finishes that we've seen in the last couple of years. Of course, we heard the Preakness, but there are some times when you maybe even thought he was never going to get there, and his class, his ability, and everything that Michael described really comes together to make journalism the horse that he was.
Coming up next, you're going to hear from Graham Motion. He is going to be very active at Colonial Downs later today. He has horses in each of the greatest stakes and a couple of other stakes, too. We'll tell you all about it next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Colonial Downs summer racing season is here with a new schedule featuring live racing every Thursday through Sunday. Post time 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Back is our popular 12% takeout pick 5 offered twice daily, and play the all-new $3 late pick 3 with a 15% takeout. Join us for our biggest days of the season, Saturday, August 1st at noon for the Colonial Downs Festival of Racing, featuring 8 stakes races, including the Grade 1 Arlington Million, and then closing day, Labor Day, Monday, September 7th, with the Grade 3 Old Dominion Derby. Colonial Downs, the next era of racing.
The Scott Mallory consignment at this year's Fasig-Tipton Saratoga sale consists of 4 outstanding individual offerings, starting with hip number 8, a yearling out of 2-year-old winner Laurel Canyon by the outstanding sire Bolt Doro. Hip 40 is a filly out of graded stakes placed off topic. Hip 215, a filly by legendary sire Curlin out of the Grade 1 producing mare Hard to Resist. And hip 220 is from the first crop of Forte out of multiple stakes producing 100% winner producer Ice Women. Don't miss these outstanding yearlings offered by Scott Mallory in Barn 5 at Fasig-Tipton, Saratoga.
Monmouth Park is your place to play this summer with a 15% takeout on all doubles and pick 3s, including a $5 late double and a $3 late pick 3. And don't miss these exciting upcoming handicapping contests. The $500 Monmouth Saratoga contest on Whitney Day, Saturday, August 8th, and the $800 Monmouth Saratoga contest on Travers Day, August 29th. Contests award a combination of BCBC seats, NHC seats, and cash. It's all happening at Monmouth Park.
Since 2000, Millridge has raised or sold 43 Grade 1 winners, a remarkable achievement considering 39 of those were raised on the farm. The Millridge consignment at the Saratoga sale has been a terrific source of Grade 1 winners, with Seize the Gray the most recent classic winner.
Seize the Gray! Oh, Hammock Torres seized the day to win the 149th running of the Preakness.
This year at Saratoga, Millridge offers 4 yearlings in the open sale and 3 in the New York bred sale, with inspections beginning at Barn 5 on Friday, August 7th. Millridge, raising and selling racehorses.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Out center of the track is Turf Star, producing a bit of a kick as well. My favorite bird, and Turf Star is on rushing on the outside. It is My Favorite Bird and Turf Star, My Favorite Bird, Turf Star.
Turf Star got it under Hoiber is perfectly timed. Give Me Another has something for the final furlong and puts away Whiskey Decision at the 16th pole. Give Me Another for the Graham Motion Barn coming home strong in her 6-year-old debut. She's a win machine, and she wins the Eatontown Stakes.
In between horses, Test Score. Far outside, One Stripe is erupting late. One Stripe tries to reach Test Score. Test Score, One Stripe. It's Grand Motion 1-2. It's Test Score to win the Pegasus Turf.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Angela Herman with you. Up until 11 a.m. Eastern, that was a Graham Motion trifecta. 3 runners in today's greatest stakes races at Arlington on the Arlington Million program. I should say at Colonial on the Arlington Million program. I'm surprised it's taken me 2 hours to make that mistake again. He also has a couple of horses on the undercard in the Andy Guest Stakes and one in the Van Cleef Stakes. And Graham joins us now here on HRRN. Good morning, Graham.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
Huge day at Colonial Downs. Let's start with that Arlington Million. Grade 1 winner, Test Score. I love this horse, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a remarkably consistent horse, except for his one race this year at Churchill, which was a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What did you take away from that effort?
I just don't get it. It was, we freshened him up after Pegasus with that race in mind, and he just didn't do much running that day, which is really uncharacteristic of him, because one thing about this horse is he's been a very consistent, hard-knocking horse.
Is it one of those situations where, as a trainer, you just say, after you do your due diligence and you make sure the horse is okay, it's one of those situations where, hey, they're not machines?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I do question myself a little bit now going into that race. I didn't feel like his last couple of works are perhaps as good as they normally were, but we were also working on the turf course at Keeneland, which is so foreign to anything that we normally do. So we were a little bit out of our comfort zone there.
And going back one race to the Beverly D, you have a couple of South Africans actually on the card, and both of them are going to be around maybe the 9-2 mark. And Give Me Another is looking for 3 in a row. Tell us how she's coming into this one.
Yeah, I mean, she's such a cool filly. We had to give her some time off over the winter. We had hoped to run her in the Breeders' Cup last year, and she came up with a little splint issue. We gave her the time off. She then had a couple of other issues over the winter. We actually had to extract 2 teeth from her, which I don't think I've ever even done before surgically.
No.
In a clinic. So that was very unusual. So she ended up having quite a bit of time, but I thought the New Jersey race, the Monmouth race, was a great spot to get her to the Beverly D, and things worked out really well that day.
She's a filly with plenty, or I should say a mare. She's a 6-year-old mare. A mare with plenty of tactical speed, too, Graham. Is that the trip you're hoping for Give Me Another?
Yeah, I think she can be ridden kind of handy. Georgia gave her a great ride last time. I think the distance on her, I was more concerned about shortening back up to mile 16 last time, to be honest.
Give Me Another going in the Beverly D. That's the race preceding the Arlington Million. We'll talk more about the Arlington Million here with Graham in just a minute, but let's focus on the Grade 2 Secretariat. I want to make sure we have time to talk about all of these horses, Graham. Turf Star going in there, another horse that comes out of a race that maybe was not what you wanted to see.
Yeah, but we were taking a bit of a shot. Running up at Saratoga, going a distance that, I really wasn't 100% confident he was going to handle. I think this is much more in his wheelhouse today.
Dave Zenner from Colonial joined us earlier, and he picked Turf Star on top in this race. And I told him I was going to let you know. He didn't know if that was so good for you or not.
I'm not sure what his record is, so I'm not going to comment. But I appreciate that he has confidence in me. He's a neat little horse. We ran him in the Breeders' Cup. He actually ran very respectably in the Breeders' Cup. We kind of got off track a little bit in his first 2 starts this year, but I thought his race in the Murphy was very good, and if we can get back to that race today, it puts him in the mix.
How about the inside post going a mile and 16th on the turf at Colonial Downs? In general, good, bad, indifferent?
Oh, I think that's good. I think in that spot, I'd much rather be on the inside.
What kind of trip would you envision for Turf Star if you got to lay it out exactly how you'd like for him?
The one thing I told Georgie when he rode him at Laurel on Preakness Day was I just don't want to rush him. I felt that everyone had kind of rushed him in his 2 previous starts. You know, at Gulfstream you have to, otherwise you get left. I just said let him run his race. Don't rush him, and that's what I'm going to tell him today.
And going back to the Van Cleef, I mean, you are going to have, I think he's not going to be anywhere close to 20-1, but I have to ask you, what's his name around the barn? Because it's just a mouthful if you're going to say his full name. What do you call him?
Yeah, it's pretty basic, but we just shortened it up to Izzy. So.
Okay. Well, and he's going for a couple in a row. Now, he has tried the Van Cleef before, but seems to be coming back into it better than ever at age 8. Tell us about him.
Yeah, his prep for this was a really good spot for him. You know, it was a great opportunity to get into this race. Obviously, it's a big step up today, but look, this is a pretty classy horse. Probably was a little ambitious to go to Dubai with him, and then it took us a while to get him back on track. But I think he showed last time at Laurel what he's capable of doing on his day.
Graham, when you have a horse that makes that trip to Dubai, and then you're obviously familiar with doing that, and then comes back to the States, what things do you have to look for to let you know they're ready to return to top form?
Yeah, I think you just have to be patient. That's the main thing. I always feel that you can't rush them back into it. You've got to give them enough time initially to get over the trip, and then just not be in a hurry to get them back breathing.
Well, I'm sure it wouldn't shock you if Izzy were to get the victory because of the fact you said he is a kind of a classy horse. What's the key to victory for him other than, of course, running faster than the competition?
Yeah, Georgie gave him a great ride last time. He had him settled. I wouldn't want to be in a hurry with him. When he won at Colonial 2 years ago, you know, Manny had a great trip just off the pace.
And we'll see if that can happen again later today. And one more horse to talk about, Roja, going in the Andy Guest Stakes. Another horse that's drawn the rail, but the morning line odds maker at Colonial doesn't care. He's even money.
Yeah, I mean, we picked out this race right after she won at Saratoga. You know, Erin and I wanted to give her plenty of time to get over that race. She's not a filly. She puts so much into her races. She's not a filly we want to run back too quickly. She's also quite slight. There's not much of her. But she's very fast. You know, the one hole always worries you a little bit in these sprints, but she's very quick.
We got everything from an even money shot to a 20-1 morning line shot. What do you prefer as a trainer as far as watching the race?
Well, you're always under more pressure when you're even money, right? So that kind of brings on the anxiety. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to win some really big races at big prices, so I never worried too much about it. I think Animal Kingdom was 20-1, and Share the Cat was 40-1 when she won the Breeders' Cup. So,
well, like they say, that the horses can't read the tote board, right?
No, for sure.
Graham, a couple more comments on that Arlington Million and test score, because I'm such a huge fan of this horse, as I mentioned. This is a really deep renewal of the Million. And when Dave Zenner was with us earlier and Clay Witham was with us to talk about Burnham Square, I made the comment that I think this is a much deeper, more contentious field than it was last year. How about your thoughts on the competition?
Yeah, look, it's a great race, and I think the one tough thing is that we get a penalty for winning a Grade 1, so we carry a little more weight, which I think is a shame. I wish they kind of made these races just weight for age. But look, it's a very good race, and Ian Torse has been very impressive. Ironically, the last horse to beat him was my horse, Cruise the Nile, but going a distance that was much shorter than what his best was. So he got the better of us at Kentucky Downs last year, but I think that was a tricky track too. I don't think test score really handled it. So, look, it's a great matchup. It's a great race, as it should be.
Is that weight discrepancy more detrimental over a longer distance of a mile and a quarter like this than it would be, say, in a sprint race, or does it not matter?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
And 4 pounds can make that much of a difference.
Look, I can't remember exactly what they say. I mean, in Europe, they pay so much more attention to the weight than we do over here. Yeah. But I think it's, 2 pounds to a length or something along those lines. So, look, you're going to have to be much the best in a field carrying 4 pounds more than some of these horses, which, it's asking a lot. But, I love this horse. He's he's in great form. So I feel very good about running him today.
And when you have 6 runners involved in 5 different stakes on one day, when does this day make its way onto your calendar? Like, how long have you been targeting these races for some of these?
Yeah, look, these guys we've been targeting from a good ways out. I think that's what's really fun when you have horses like this, that you can make plans. I feel very fortunate to be in that position, and you pick races and work backwards, right?
Graham, I'm a huge fan of the Ammermans, and they, of course, the owners of TestScore. How cool is it to be associated with them?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I've had this horse and Trickery. I've only trained for them for 4 or 5 years, and to have two Grade 1 horses in those crops is just extraordinary. Obviously, they're people that I've followed all my career. Just feel really lucky to have hooked up with them and to have these 2 really special horses, really cool horses.
All right, defend your player. Tell me what gives you the confidence, what you're seeing from him that leads you to believe he can win the Arlington Million this afternoon.
Look, he's just got to run back to how he's been running, to his Pegasus and to his Manhattan. I think as long as he can run back to those races, it puts him in the mix.
Oh, Graham, you've done a fantastic job bringing him along and all of these runners that you're going to saddle this afternoon. Want to wish you all the best in these races and the horses you're going to saddle going forward, and really looking forward to seeing them strut their stuff this afternoon.
Thank you, guys. Should be a great day's racing.
Yeah, appreciate the visit, my friend.
Oh.
Graham Motion here on HRRN. Again, I am a huge fan of TestScore. I think that if you're looking for an upsetter in today's Arlington Million, he may be the one, even though you call it an upset. He's not going to be 20-1, but he's 9-2 on the morning line. I think you might get right around that 4 or 5-1 mark on a horse like TestScore. Do you agree?
I was going to say, I agree. I think he will drift up on the board. You've seen him in his last 3 races. He's been very bettable prices, even though he's put out some good performances. But you see that with a lot of these. You're going to get horses in here, and that's going to be a theme of a day like this. Horses that you normally would not get at any kind of value, you do, because they line up against each other. If we do it with the Breeders' Cup, these big days, it just makes some very, very good horses very much more bettable than they normally are. So it's one of the best parts about it.
I was going to bring this up to Graham, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not doing it, because trainers love when you point out the fact that they haven't won big races.
They just love it.
Graham's so confident. Graham's won so many big races that he would have been just fine with me asking him this. But I'm shocked to see that Graham Motion has not won the Arlington Million, that he has not won the Beverly D. He has won the Secretariat with Trickery for the Ammermans a couple of years ago, but he has yet to win the Beverly D and the Arlington Million, and we talked about that with Dave Zenner. It's kind of like a guy like Steve Asmussen who hasn't won the Kentucky Derby. How on earth is that possible?
There's just anomalies with some of the trainers. He has so many good turf horses. I mean, he's trying to win his second Secretariat in 3 years. It's not like it's been a long time between drinks for him, but these races for some reason have been elusive. So I think it's just a matter of time, especially now being at Colonial. Some of these horses are a little bit closer to home. It's just going to be a matter of when, not if, he's going to win these races, because just about every other major turf race in America has been won by Graham Motion sometime in the past. Could be this afternoon, could be a little further down the line, but you see year after year, he just manages to find good spots for these horses, build their confidence and build their campaigns to where they all look competitive no matter what spot they go in.
Our poll question this morning: who will win today's Arlington Million at Colonial? Burnham Square, Dresden Row, the defending champion Fort Washington, or somebody else? And so far, 70% of HRRN Nation saying it's going to be Burnham Square. That margin is much bigger than I expected. We did have a listener who commented on the somebody else category, chose somebody else and said TestScore is going to win. I like that pick because again, big fan of TestScore. I'm also a big fan of Burnham Square, though, and several of the horses in there. But I think TestScore, if you're looking for an upsetter, could be the one. As a matter of fact, Sally Ellen at Country Life Farm in Maryland is listening, and she emails the show and says she's been a big fan of Burnham Square since his win in the Holy Bull last year, but was considering a little flutter on TestScore until I said that was my pick.
See, that's my girl. Thank you so much for chiming
Sally
in
Ellen.
with that. Hey, I mean, she can say
Team
what
Bush.
some of us are thinking. That's
Team
okay.
Bush.
No, Steam Team, Burnham Square all the way. I wish TestScore and you the best of luck, but he's absolutely one of my favorite horses in training right now, and I think the future is still bright and long for both of them, but Burnham Square is where I land today.
Yep. Yeah. Fantastic choice there. Burnham Square 5-2 on the morning line. Test score 9-2. There are a lot of ways to go. Fort Washington not getting any respect in our poll. Only 4% of HRRN Nation thinking he will go back-to-back in the Arlington Million for Hall of Fame trainer Shug McGahee. Okay, we're going to get to another break. When we come back, we'll take a look at a date in racing history or two and get you ready for hour 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Ms. Fernandez, what are those tiny things?
Those are what we call amoebas. You can only see them through a microscope.
Wow.
Today's students are tomorrow's great thinkers and innovators. But right now, there's a funding crisis in public schools. Millions of kids go to schools that don't have funding for books, computers, and so much more just because of where they live. You can help change that. Donors Choose is a nonprofit that lets you support students and teachers in your community and beyond. You choose which supplies to support. You could provide first graders with pencils and paper, or other students with their first chapter books, help a music class get a guitar.
You could even supply a classroom like mine with a science project. But what you're really giving is the moment that sparks a brighter tomorrow.
To learn more, please visit DonorsChoose.org. That's DonorsChoose.org. Choose students. Shape the future.
I always tell people I was the luckiest guy in the world. I wanted to be an Army man or a fireman, and I got to do both. As a firefighter, my job was about saving lives. I never thought one day I would be fighting for mine.
After spending his career answering the call to save others, Ken was diagnosed with ALS. Now he's facing his biggest battle, for more time. For 70 years, Muscular Dystrophy Association has been answering the call to help people live longer and more independent lives.
MDA means to me hope.
MDA is leading the way for people living with ALS, muscular dystrophy, and other neuromuscular diseases by accelerating research, advancing care, and advocating to empower families like Ken's.
I wouldn't be living as good of a life with ALS if it wasn't for MDA. MDA is helping people live stronger and love longer. Learn more at MDA.org today.
Hi, human. I'm a micro monster swimming around in your plastic water bottle. But I can't wait to swim in your bloodstream soon.
Microplastics are micro monsters.
Drink me. Wait, what are you doing?
But you can fight back by using glass or metal reusable water bottles.
No!
Don't let microplastic micro monsters invade your body. Find more ways to fight back at stopmicromonsters.org.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we, Angela? Talking about Colonial, talking about Saratoga, talking about journalism, and looking ahead to the Clement L. Hirsch this afternoon. And now we're going to get into Ellis Park coming up in a few minutes with Joe Kristufek and that TwinSpires triple play.
Whew, 2 hours down, and it barely seems like we've even got started. We still got more to go, but it's good to get the information from the boots on the ground at all those respective tracks. A lot of stakes racing coming for us today.
Yeah, and just a note here from Kevin Kirstein. I had it in front of me, and now I lost it, but there was a bit of rain in the area in Henderson, Kentucky overnight, so the main track listed as sloppy. And I'll get you the turf condition here in just a minute as soon as I find his post again. But they did have a little bit of moisture, and that turf course will have some give to it. It is actually listed as yielding. This is a report from Kevin as of about 2 hours ago. So keep that in mind when you're handicapping all the races coming up at Ellis Park.
Everybody taking their turn with the weather bugs striking, and now I guess it's Ellis. But there are still mutters on the card, and there's horses who might like a little bit of cut in the ground, so I guess we reevaluate and go back to square one. But I think that's not going to be the case on the East Coast today, so you don't have to redo everything, maybe just Kentucky.
Dates in racing history as they apply to this particular weekend. Nothing in terms of August 1st for you here this morning, but tomorrow, August 2nd, 1969. That is the anniversary of jockey Robin Smith, one of the first female jockeys in the United States, winning her first career race. It came at Ferndale.
The girl power goes all the way back to 1969. I wanted to make it out to Ferndale. I spent some time in Northern California, but good to recognize that because, they don't often get that, but she made her mark in 1969 at Ferndale. Good for her.
Here's another one. This happened August 3rd, 1989. So Monday, we'll say happy anniversary to jockey Georgie Velasquez, who notched his 6,000th career victory aboard 3-year-old filly Matty Bumpo in the third race at Arlington International Racecourse.
I don't even know the date that I'm going to cash my 6,000th ticket, much less win a 6,000th career victory. But, very fitting that he got that at Arlington International Racecourse, and we get the million today at Colonial. And that milestone, one that not many will ever reach in their lifetime.
If you have missed any portion of the show so far, you have missed an awful lot of information. You can head back and check out the podcast after we finish up this third hour of the show, which is coming your way shortly. That's 11 a.m. Eastern. You can listen to the podcast on our website and on your favorite podcast platform. Hour 3 kicks off with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Joe Kristufek, Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History. Fun story about the 1919 Sanford Memorial. And Dale and Tim with I Ask the Answer. It's all coming your way next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Set piece rolling by everybody. Set piece on the outside hits the front. Santine back to second along with Adamo. It's set piece and Florent Giroux. They catapulted past rivals. Set piece going to win Virginia's maiden million.
Latia, solid appeal, and here comes Dank, who's gone right past them both. It's Dank and Ryan Moore. Dank is pulling away as Europe keeps its hold on the Beverly D.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
And Beholder just getting the rein shaken at her now. Your Hilwer is running a brave 1 second. But Beholder, once again, a scintillating performance today. Just never gave them a chance. Cantering home under Gary Stevens in the Clement L. Hirsch.
And it's Stay Thirsty in front. Dominus is a neck behind, but he's fighting hard every step. Less than a furlong to go with Moonshine Mullen now third. But it's going to be Stay Thirsty who's drawing away in the final furlong. Stay Thirsty to win the Jim Dandy.
Now here's Mike Penna and Angela Herman.
Yeah, welcome back. It is the Equine Forum. It is all presented by TwinSpires. It's all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Happy to have you along for the ride. One more hour to go here this morning. It begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Joe Kristufek has you covered there. He'll give you 3 races to watch and wager on at TwinSpires this afternoon. Kurt Becker Stroll Through Racing History comes up at 10:20 and at 10:30. Dale, Tim, I ask, they answer. We're going to tackle some of the hottest topics in the game today, including which horse is most likely to pull off the Jim Dandy Travers double. There are some good ones. Commandment, Renegade, both in today's Jim Dandy. Which horse most likely to pull off the double if it's going to happen? They'll weigh in on that coming up. But without further ado, we say hello to our good friend Joe Kristufek in the TwinSpires Triple Play. What's up, Joe K?
What's up, Mike? Getting ready for a huge weekend. I love hearing those, old school stretch run replays coming into the segment, and that Beverly D with Dank just reminds me of when I used to work back in Chicago. My brother's Dan Kristufek, and he always used to call Dank Dan K, and I know he cashed a nice ticket on that horse that day. So it's nice to kind of spark those old memories.
Yeah, what a day. Arlington Park is, and I've told this story throughout the show, it is such a special place for me because it is the first time we ever hosted a race broadcast outside the state of Kentucky. And, Dan Leary was there. Dave Zenner, who joined us earlier in the program, was there at Arlington at the time. And they rolled out the red carpet, and every year was the same thing. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, no, obviously you're very well aware that I have a lot of tremendous memories there, and that's one thing they can't take away from you in life is your memories and, what happened when and where you were and, what horses won those big races. I mean, I just remember coming up early on in the game and seeing some of those stars of racing and, now you look back at it and some of those historic race calls and some of those great races. And, back in those days, the Arlington Million, the International Festival truly was international. I mean, we had a lot of great horses come over from overseas. It always seemed to be a battle between, the Euros and the horses that were stabled here. And, we're going to kind of rekindle some of those memories. I know the Colonial program this weekend from top to bottom is absolutely tremendous, but we've got some really good races Summer Showcase weekend at Ellis Park too.
Let's dive into Ellis Park. You've chosen all three of your triple play races from Ellis this afternoon, races 5, 8, and 10. Let's start with that fifth race. Joe, what'd you like about it?
Yeah, I like the 3 Mahogany Dream for Nick Goodwin, who's got a stable of horses at Ellis this summer. Horse was second on debut to Admiral's Order, who we're going to see against stakes competition a little bit later on in the weekend. Was a good second, got sideswiped at the start, was 6 wide off the far turn, rallied for second, and a performance that I would definitely upgrade. And now goes from that 5.5 furlong distance in the slop to a 2-turn turf race, which is what he was intended for on debut. He's by hard spun. He's got some turf influences on the dam side of the pedigree too. 7-2 in the morning line. And, these Ellis Park 2-year-old races, man, are stacked. You're starting to go 2 turns on the turf. You're going to start to go 2 turns more frequently on the dirt. You still got a lot of horses sprinting that are just beginning their careers. But, I'm not a big fan of 2-year-old racing in April and May and even June. But once we hit August into September, October, November, I absolutely love these 2-year-old races.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially with the 2-year-olds on the turf. And I'm looking at the same horse you are because, Nick Goodwin is up here all summer, and the big horses can go to Ellis Park and get that 2-year-old racing on the turf. But I do have to ask, because we're encountering rain up here today, should this race come off the grass, what sort of alternatives would you give us besides him on the main track?
Yeah, so you look at him, and he's already proven on the flop, so the price obviously gets deflated that much more because, you're pretty confident that horse is going to stay in. Some of the others might come out. The 2 Silver Jewel is intriguing, turf or dirt. I know the first 2 races have been on the turf, but encountered trouble in both of them and had huge gallop outs in both of them too, which people aren't necessarily going to see, in just the past performance lines. You actually have to go do the work and watch the replays. And I remember seeing that first race and I'm like, wow, this horse is really going to improve going long, and just got into trouble, steadied at the start, was held up midway through the far turn, never really able to put his best hoof forward, and then galloped out big. So Silver Jewel, turf or the dirt with that versatile pedigree, if the race does move over to the main track, I think would be a viable sleeper.
All right, that's race number 5 at Ellis Park. The second leg you've chosen, Joe, is race number 8. What was it about the 8th race that you liked?
So race number 8, so we scroll through our PPs here.
I did it too quickly for you. A 6 furlong sprint.
Yeah, back in the day, you're using printed out PPs. You use the iPad now. You got to scroll, and at least you're saving the trees, right, Mike?
Yeah, exactly.
Keep It Easy is the horse to beat there. He's putting the blinkers on. He's been knocking on the door. He's a nice horse for Dale Romans. He's going to get bet like it. But Jimmy DeVito's got Big Boats, who ran one of the best races of his career fresh at Ellis Park last summer, dominated to win by 6, was completely overlooked in a deep field at 17-1. Never was really able to replicate that race. He got bet down in the Ellis Park Derby, showed speed and faded. He ran third at Churchill, then tried sprinting on the turf at Keeneland, ran third, and we haven't seen him since last fall. You know, you don't get to see those workout videos at Hawthorne, obviously, and, you know, you're not going to get to see workout even on paper at Hawthorne, you know, moving forward. I know another place that is near and dear to both Angela and I's heart, having both worked there. But Jimmy DeVito, and you know this from your time there, Angela, he's a dangerous trainer. He's good off the layoff. He's got some nice horses that he brings to Kentucky. He's normally very competitive, and most of the time he flies under the radar. So big boat for me in a race where there are several different ways you could go.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with the sentiments on Jimmy DeVito, and they usually have the brand of speed that he brings to the table. And I do have to ask you a little bit further, of course, I always have to dig deeper into this. How deep would you have to go in, say, a late pick 4 or pick 5 in this particular leg of it?
I mean, it depends on how many horses you're going to use, obviously, in the other races, what your budget is and how much you think this could actually pay based on the horses that you think can win. I might just go too deep in here. I'd probably go big boat, and the other horse that I would use would be Keep It Easy, the 2 who is the morning line favorite. You know, Kalahari Dreams had a tough trip last out. If you're stretching a little bit further, that horse has always been capable, if not a little bit disappointing lately. So probably narrow it to just those 2 and maybe think about spreading to Kalahari Dreams, depending on how the rest of the sequence shakes out once you get the scratches, etc.
All right, so we go 3-3 to begin the TwinSpires triple play this morning. Number 3, Mahogany Dream in race 5 at Ellis. Number 3, Big Boat in race 8. Race number 10 is the $250,000 Hummingbird Stakes, 5.5 furlongs on the turf. And Joe, every time we talk about one of these turf sprints, I tell you how confusing these races are for me as a handicapper. I play them, but they're not my favorites to bet. I think they're wide open most of the time, and anything can happen. How about for you? Who do you like in the 10th?
Yeah, I think you could say that about turf racing in general, whether it's sprint or even upwards of a mile and a half, and that's why that $3 all-turf pick 3 that they have at Ellis is one of my favorite bets in horse racing with that low 15% takeout. You know, it was being reported, I believe it was by Marcus Hirsch, that Saturday Flirt is going to run at Colonial, and that would take the morning line favorite and the horse that I think would squarely be the one to beat out of this field. So then you got to start looking around elsewhere. Buttercream Babe, I think, has got a big shot. Some others, Big Trouble on the inside. It's a sibling weekend for the Foleys with all 3 other good horses out of the same mare running on the same weekend, Troubleshooting and Trouble Calling as well. But I like Chloe, the 8 for Mike Maker. This is a horse that really got bet 2 starts ago, got third, got beat 2 lengths by Satin Blue and Itzel, both of whom are in this race. But then she put the blinkers on last time, and it looked like a 2-horse race on paper, and it wound up being a 2-horse race to the wire. And I really like the way this horse ran. Now, she can go to the lead if nobody else does, but with all the speed drawn to her outside, I really think she's going to sit 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th early, make that move on the far turn with Ben Curtis, who is 2nd leading rider at Ellis Park this summer. And I think the price will be right in what's going to be a wide open race with the defection of the morning line favorite. So Chloe for me in the finale on Saturday. And again, you're looking at the Summer Showcase weekend, 2 stakes on the Saturday card, 5 stakes on the Sunday card at Ellis.
That's a lot to take in and a good price with Chloe. And I got to ask, with the speed towards the outside, you mentioned that there is going to be some pace that might get ahead of her. If one of those is going to clear the other, which one would you guess? I'm always looking for early speed in races like this, and they should both be good prices too, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, Lovely Emma was disappointing last out. She's going to be forwardly placed. Looking at some of the others, I mean, the more and more I look at this with the likely defection, Itzel's going to go forward, but that one's drawn on the outside. Lucy McGee's going to go forward, but, you know, I just don't think she's good enough after winning the A other than. I mean, if you get an absolute pace collapse, the 2 horses that exit to Clarksville at Indy would be really, really dangerous. Big Trouble from the rail. And then actually the horse that ran second behind her, Shirley Ann, was 45-1 that day, and she blew the far turn. She was about 9 wide off the far turn, and she still almost won that race. Doesn't look as good on paper as a lot of the others under the radar connections. But if you think it might be a fall apart and you're looking for a price or you're looking for a long shot to throw into your all-turf pick 3, Shirley Ann would be one that I would certainly consider.
There you go.
All right, let's recap Joe Kristufek's top 3 horses for this Saturday morning. The TwinSpires Triple Play. Race 5 at Ellis. He'll go with number 3, Mahogany Dreams, 7-2 on the morning line. Race 8, he'll take number 3, Big Boat at 6-1. And race number 10, number 8, Chloe at odds of 8-1 on the morning line. Joe, you mentioned the big day tomorrow at Ellis. Fill us in on everything happening there and then everything happening at TwinSpires this weekend.
Yeah, so the big Sunday card, 5 stakes, as I mentioned. They're the last 5 races on the program. And in tandem with that, there's going to be a $2,500 late pick 5, hit it and split it. Make sure you opt in. It's a brand new promotion. It's not only going to be this Sunday, but every Sunday in the month of August. Again, if you opt into that, you hit the late pick 5 at Ellis Park, you will split that $2,500 bonus pool. So certainly worth getting involved in that. You know, keeping our fingers crossed with the weather. There's a chance of some precipitation this weekend, and, you know, it's a decent chance of precipitation, but just kind of a small chance all day. So the weather's going to be beautiful. Otherwise, you're not going to get that 90-degree humidity that a lot of times you get when you race at Ellis and Henderson, Evansville. It's supposed to be in the low 80s, maybe even upper 70s. So looking forward to that. I'll be on the grounds. Kevin Kirstein will be there. The guys from the Auxiliary Gate podcast will be there as well, and we'll be covering these races like a glove.
The A-team in attendance at Ellis Park. Joe, appreciate the visit. Best of luck at the windows this weekend, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon, my friend.
Yeah, you got it. You guys have a good one.
You got it. Joe Kristufek with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Don't forget you can play all of those races any way you like. Matter of fact, bet every race you're going to bet this weekend with TwinSpires. Angela, it is time to update our listeners on the Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question.
All right, here we go. It's another toughie this week. The Jim Dandy Stakes is named after the legendary long shot who pulled off a 100-1 victory over Triple Crown winner Gallant Fox in the 1930 Travers Stakes. Out of 141 career starts, how many races did Jim Dandy actually win? No Googling, everybody.
No Googling. That's a tough one. Well, sort of. Not as tough as some of the ones we come up with, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that knock this one out of the park. Coming up next, Kurt Becker takes you on his Stroll Through Racing History. But before we get to that, asking you, who is your pick to win today's Arlington Million at Colonial Downs? That's been our poll question throughout the week. You can continue to cast your vote at HRRN on X, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. Do you like Burnham Square? Do you like Dresden Row from Todd Pletcher? Or maybe you like the defending champion Fort Washington? Those are the 3 choices. If you think it's somebody other than those 3, you can let us know that too by selecting somebody else and then type in your comment into the comment tab and let us know who you think is going to win today's Arlington Million at Colonial Downs. We have more conversation about that race and about the big weekend coming up at Saratoga as well. But first, Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History, presented by Keeneland. That's next on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
You're listening to HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The Scott Mallory consignment at this year's Fasig-Tipton Saratoga sale consists of 4 outstanding individual offerings, starting with hip number 8, a yearling out of 2-year-old winner Laurel Canyon by the outstanding sire Bolt Doro. Hip 40 is a filly out of graded stakes placed off topic. Hip 215, a filly by legendary sire Curlin out of the grade 1 producing mare Hard to Resist. And hip 220 is from the first crop of Forte out of multiple stakes producing 100% winner producer Ice Women. Don't miss these outstanding yearlings offered by Scott Mallory in Barn 5 at Fasig-Tipton, Saratoga.
Get ready for the biggest night of the year at Charlestown on Friday, August 28th. It's the Grade 2 $1 million Charlestown Classic and the Grade 2 $750,000 Charlestown Oaks, the richest sprint race for 3-year-old fillies in North America. The spectacular card features 9 stakes races worth over $2.7 million. The action gets started with a special first post time of 5 o'clock Eastern. It's the Grade 2 Charlestown Classic and Grade 2 Charlestown Oaks on Friday, August 28th here at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races.
Live racing is back at Ellis Park Racing and Gaming. The 25-day summer racing season runs through August 23rd with racing every Friday through Sunday throughout the summer with a daily first post of 11:55 a.m. Central, featuring many of racing's top trainers and jockeys and a record $4.125 million stakes schedule across 18 races, including the Summer Showcase weekend August 1st and 2nd and the Ellis Park Derby Day August 9th. You won't want to miss summer racing at Ellis Park. For more information, visit ellisparkowensborogaming.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. History tells us that Man of War, considered to be one of the greatest thoroughbreds of all time, suffered the lone loss of his career to a horse named Upset in a race which took place at Saratoga in August of 1919. But did Upset truly beat Man of War on the merits that day, or did he merely inherit the victory as a result of old-fashioned racing luck? That is the question we seek to answer on this edition of The Stroll, especially as we approach the anniversary of that memorable event. The race was the Sanford Memorial, named for millionaire sportsman Stephen Sanford, a Georgetown graduate and carpet manufacturer who had also served in the U.S. House of Representatives. The site was Saratoga Racecourse, and the date was Wednesday, August 13th, 1919. And therein lay the first attempted explanation for Man of War's loss. Folks today often attribute the outcome to Saratoga's reputation as the graveyard of favorites. But back at that time in 1919, there were at least a few people who blamed the loss not on Saratoga, but on the race date, being the 13th day of the month. Superstition in the form of triskaidekaphobia, fear of the number 13, raised its ugly head. But we are rejecting this line of thought, given that superstitions are hardly a scientific means of explaining what happens on the racetrack. We apologize to those who are superstitious or even a little stitious. So let's talk about the weight each horse carried, as Man of War toted 130 pounds while Upset carried 115. While it's true that 130 pounds is a lot to ask of any horse, much less a 2-year-old, we know that Man of War carried similar amounts of weight throughout his career without ever sustaining a second loss. We also know he was a big strapping colt, and the Sanford was a 6-furlong sprint, not a 2-turn race. For that matter, Golden Broom was considered to be of the same caliber as Man of War at that early juncture in their careers, and he too carried 130 pounds in the Sanford but ran a distant third. So we believe Man of War not only handled the weight that day but carried it in a style befitting the superstar status he was soon to achieve. For that matter, Man of War had already carried 130 pounds just 2 weeks earlier in winning the United States Hotel Stakes at Saratoga, beating Upset while the latter carried 115. So we reject the idea that Man of War lost either because of the number 13 or because of carrying 130 pounds. But what about the claim that the starter was incompetent? Legendary New York starter Marshall Cassidy had taken ill after a morning swim that day, so he appointed a placing judge, C.H. Pettingill, to serve in his place. One turf writer called it a mystery that Pettengill was chosen for such a job at the yellow leaf stage of life, adding that his chief claim as a starter was that he had once kept the field at the post for 55 minutes as a result of his indecisiveness, not an ideal quality for the official starter to have. While it's true that the start of the 1919 Sanford Memorial was a bungled mess, at least one newspaper placed the blame for Man O' War's loss not on the starter, but on the fact there were 4 maidens in the race, saying, quote, "The maidens were dangerous derelicts in the path of contention, and Man O' War was torpedoed by them in the first quarter mile, and then was sunk by the depth bombs of mistakes hurled into him by Loftus," end quote. So we come to the next chapter in this story. Loftus, of course, was Johnny Loftus, Man O' War's jockey of record. W.C. Vreeland of the Brooklyn Daily Eagle took aim at the jock and said Loftus rode Man O' War like a stable boy, not a jockey. Who then was ultimately responsible for the lone loss of Man O' War's career? Was it the starter? Was it the flock of maidens which cluttered the track? Was it the jockey? No, it was none of those things. Instead, we believe the reason Man O' War lost was Upset, the horse who was first across the wire that day. As at least a few turf riders noted, Upset was a good colt from the prominent Green Tree stable of Harry Payne Whitney, and he will rightly be remembered for handing Man O' War a stunning defeat. But many of those same scribes added that Man O' War was still the best of the crop, with his machine-like action, with every muscle coordinating into a streak of chestnut color that flashed over the track like a swiftly moving shadow. They said his stride was sweeping and space-devouring, and that on any other day, he likely would beat Upset flatter than a pancake. And of course, they were right. Man O' War would beat Upset in their subsequent meetings, including Belmont Park's Rich Futurity about a month after the Sanford Memorial, as well as the Travers Stakes the following year, when Man O' War would waltz home much the best in stakes and track record time. Yes, Upset deserves credit for handing Man O' War the only loss of his career. But as history records, the date of Wednesday, August 13th, 1919, was an outlier. And Man O' War recovered from that loss to prove he was unquestionably the best of his generation and one of the greatest of all time. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Thanks, Kurt, for that story. And remember, you can hear all of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History stories on our website, horseracingradio.net. Coming up, I Ask, They Answer, presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business. This is the Equine Forum on HRRN.
This is HRRN, where racing comes to talk.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Colonial Downs summer racing season is here with a new schedule featuring live racing every Thursday through Sunday. Post time 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Back is our popular 12% takeout pick 5 offered twice daily, and play the all-new $3 late pick 3 with a 15% takeout. Join us for our biggest days of the season, Saturday, August 1st at noon for the Colonial Downs Festival of Racing, featuring 8 stakes races, including the Grade 1 Arlington Million, and then closing day, Labor Day, Monday, September 7th, with the Grade 3 Old Dominion Derby. Colonial Downs, the next era of racing.
Tenda Equine and Pet Care products have been keeping world-class equine athletes happy and healthy for generations. Keep your equine athlete looking and performing well with Tenda Next Generation Wound and Skin Care Treatment, along with nutritional supplements, leg and muscle care products, salves, hoof care, poultice, topical aids, and grooming products. Visit tendahorse.com today.
Nothing compares to a horse. They inspire greatness, command respect. Because Virginia's horse industry isn't just racing and farming. It's built on the skills, labors, and passions of dedicated people working in every industry throughout our state. Horses fuel the economy, create jobs, support thousands of families, and even make dreams come true. Virginia's economy wins with horses. Find out more at virginiahorseracing.com.
A Keeneland session topper from the first crop of the all-conquering Vacoma. Jonathan's Way was touted by purchaser John Moynihan as, quote, one of the best-looking horses you'll ever lay your eyes on. Out of an undefeated stakes-winning juvenile daughter of Indian Charlie, Jonathan's Way is a complete outcross through his first 5 generations and comes from the immediate female family of the great Dynaformer. Brilliantly talented with the pedigree and physical makeup to be commercial dynamite. Jonathan's Way, a future stallion star standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
Leave Me cut loose in the black and white cap on the outside of Lobbyist as the field turns for home. Photo takes the lead through 3/4 in 113 flat. Gilbane pounces though, and Gilbane is the new leader. Will have to hold off Leave Me late, and it is Gilbane full of run, 2-length lead. Leave Me grinding away, trying to get there right on the money. Leave Me within a neck, within a head and head for the wire, and Leave Me 6 for Arad Ortiz. What a legendary performance at the Spa. Gilbane almost denied him. It was a long way back to a photo for third.
Frank Miramati with the call. Leave Me got his head in front at the wire. That completed a record-equaling day for jockey Irad Ortiz Jr. last Saturday at Saratoga. But will that momentum be enough to carry him to the top of the jockey standings when all is said and done? Plus, we'll tell you which of today's Jim Dandy contenders has the best chance of pulling off the Jim Dandy Travers double. And is the new wagering menu at Kentucky Downs right or wrong for horse players? Dale and Tim share their thoughts coming up on another loaded edition of I Ask, They Answer, presented by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program and the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
Angela, we talked about this before we began this particular segment. You and I are both pumped for some of the questions coming up over the course of the next 25 or 30 minutes. The first one comes from Shane in North Carolina, and it's a solid one.
I want to thank Shane for this good question. 4 of the last 5 winners of the Jim Dandy have returned to capture the Travers 1 month later. Which of today's Jim Dandy contenders has the best chance to add their name to that list? Tim, we'll go to you first.
Since I have Renegade in the showdown, I'm going to go there. I think, I'm not going to bet against myself, am I? But I think also Renegade, he's back to a mile and an eighth, which he won the Arkansas Derby easily by 4. And then, he ran lights out in the Derby, only to get beat a neck from the one hole. Golden Tempo got him, and Golden Tempo kind of dominated him in the Belmont, even though, Todd Pletcher has said that he thinks that now that he's got more time between races, he expects a better Renegade, and I think he's right. I think the main competition will come from Commandment, who, he was my Derby pick, and he really hasn't run a bad race other than maybe the Derby. very ultra consistent and a fighter. But for me, I'm going to take Renegade because going into the Derby, he was considered maybe the best of the division. I think he's got a chance to prove it in the second half, so I'm going with him.
Yeah, Renegade, definitely. I know Todd's high on him. Todd touted me to pick him in our contest, but you jumped ahead of me. But Commandment's one that's been knocking on the door. It wouldn't surprise me if he jumped up and ran big in both races. He could have that breakthrough race in the Jim Dandy and go on and close out the year really big, like he started it.
Yeah, he did start it big. I mean, those wins in the Mucho Macho Man, then the Fountain of Youth, and then the gutsy win in the Florida Derby where it looked like he might get beat. And his Belmont effort was great last time out. So you have to think Commandment is still trending in the right direction even in the second half of the season.
I would think so.
It's a pretty compact field. There's only 5 in here.
What do we do with Silent Tactic from Mark Casse? This is a horse that was second in the Arkansas Derby behind Renegade and has really never run a bad race. He's never been worse than second in 2 starts. Is he a horse that can run big off the layoff?
Mark told me he's doing very, very good. He said he's training better than he was going into the Arkansas Derby. We were talking on Tuesday out there about our barns are side by side, and he was almost giddy about how good his horse was doing. He said he's up against it with some good horses, but the horse is a good one, and he's training it better than he ever has.
And he also said that the foot problems that plagued him during the Triple Crown kept him out of that. He was scratched before the Derby, and then he didn't run the Preakness. He says the foot problems are behind him. He says he's 100%. Yeah, he could be a factor, sure. But he's got a pretty long layoff since he hasn't run since Arkansas.
We've talked about some pretty
hype time.
Yes, he is. I'm sorry, Angela.
No, don't be. We've talked about some pretty classy horses, but they're all classy closers. And we got Chip Honcho on the inside, and they're putting blinkers on Commandment, but still, we think that Chip Honcho would get the lead. How slow do you think he has to go maybe to like the half in order to really have a say in the final outcome of this?
Well, I'm sure he'd love to get 48.
Yeah. Do you think it has to be that slow, though, for him to hang on?
No, I don't think he's going to get 48. I don't think they'll let him have that. But I think he's going to be. It's going to be the jockey's race. It's these guys see who has the good clock in their head. Jose Ortiz is very good at that, and his brother isn't bad either. Was on Renegade, so
they're not going to let him walk alone.
No, I don't. But I don't. I got to figure who's going to go with him. Probably Commandment would be up there. Would probably prompt, I would think.
Probably the most likely of the bunch would be Commandment, but they're not going to let him get out there and just walk.
No, I'm sure they'd love to, but I mean, the Chip Honcho group would love that, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
These guys are too smart for that.
Definitely a jockey's race, as Timmy said. It's and how often does this happen, though, guys? You see a horse like that looks like, okay, he could get to the front, and there's nobody in the race here that has that type of early speed unless Commandment does it with the blinkers on. So if he doesn't do it, then who else is going to go with Chip Honcho?
I don't know, but he might not be good enough anyway. These are good horses. They're going to come running at the end. They might catch him even if he is out there by himself. But he's not going to get a 48.
So back to Shane's question here. Renegade and Commandment, the 2 horses you both feel more likely, and I guess you both chose Renegade, is the horse more likely to pull off the Jim Dandy Travers double this year if it's going to happen?
I'm going to stick with it. I want to go Commandment.
Okay.
I'm going with Renegade. I think he makes amends against Golden Tempo and the Travers.
All right, Shane, appreciate the question. Tom in St. Louis brings us question number 2. He said torrential rains on Wednesday in upstate New York, as we all know, forced Saratoga to cancel their Wednesday card, resulting in the featured Keeneland Stakes being redrawn and moved to Sunday's program tomorrow. Tom wants to know why NYRA would choose to go this direction as opposed to simply moving the entire Wednesday card to their dark day on Monday. Dale, you want to shed some insight on this one?
Well, I'm sure it's all business. First of all, you have a contract with your vendors. They're all booked up through the weekend on what they're going to have there and all their employees, and you have to reschedule that. This is a big operation. It's not something you can just say, hey, we're not doing it today, let's do it tomorrow. And you got all your tellers, everybody's union. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be an easy thing just to run on a dark day. It sounds good on paper, but you got to get everybody to buy in.
Yeah, and that's not a very easy thing to do.
Not at all. Not at all.
And even the jockeys, and that's an off day for them. I mean, then you got, like, if you come in on Monday, then you're basically running a 6-day week, and they don't want to do that. And it's basically. The NYRA handles canceled race days by, repositioning the high-profile stakes races, like the Keeneland, they moved to Sunday. The Lake George was Thursday, but they took that off the grass and they're running that today, I believe. And so, they want to put it to already scheduled cards rather than extending the race week or adding a dark day Monday program. That's pretty cut and dry.
It worked in Kentucky because, like, we were moving on a Friday. We moved it to the next Thursday completely. Mm-hmm. A lot different at Ellis Park than it is Saratoga. And everybody was happy and it went well. But it would have been almost impossible to do in that short a turnaround.
All right, Tom, appreciate the question. Angela, what's topic number 3?
Well, topic 3 could open up a whole can of worms. Now, let's start with this. Jockey Irad Ortiz placed his name alongside a couple of legends with his 6-win day at Saratoga last Saturday, equaling the mark set by Hall of Famers John Velasquez and Ramon Dominguez, who both did it twice. But jockey Flavien Prat is the one that everyone's trying to catch. He leads the standings over Jose Ortiz, Manny Franco, and Irad. Which one of these riders will walk away with the leading jockey title at the meet's end? Dale, I'll go to you first.
I think Irad has the most business, going to ride the most horses, and I think that it's all quality business. I think he's got plenty of time to catch up. And if I had to bet on who's going to be leading rider, barring injury, barring another suspension, I'll go with Irad.
Looking at the standings, okay, and as we're talking, this is the standings through 17 days of the meet. Flavien Prat has 29. Jose Ortiz has 25. Manny Franco has 20, and he's tied with Irad Ortiz, who spotted everybody 6 days. So, and he was 13 behind, I believe. I think Jose had 13 winners when Irad started his summer here, after the suspensions, and he was out of town for a day. And now he's up to 20. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that Irad Ortiz is going to win the riding championship. He's and that's taking nothing away from Flavien, Jose, and Manny, who are all in position to run. They have great summers. But Irad Ortiz, like Dale said, he's got the business, and he's riding like a guy that's possessed. Like he wants this 5th straight title. He's like a modern day Cordero, win at all costs kind of guy. And sometimes it gets him into trouble. But if you had to put a toy gun to my head, I'd say Irad Ortiz is going to win the title. Might win it going away.
Okay, so you two are in unison on that. And I do have to correct myself. Ramon got that mark twice. John Velasquez only did get it once. But to follow up on the jockey's end of things, we'll go to the trainer's side. Give me your early prediction for the top trainer of the meet. Currently, Chad Brown is just ahead of Brad Cox, Mark Cassidy, and Tad Pletcher. What do you guys think that'll turn out like? Tim?
I think that's an easy one, too. I mean, Chad Brown just has more horses. He's at 12 winners as we speak today. Brad Cox is at 10, who's having a good meet. I talked to Brad the other day, and he has no visions at all of him winning the title because Chad just has too many starts. I think Chad has over 60 starters, and, Brad has half that. So I think that, there's just because of the numbers, Chad Brown is going to win it. And of course, he's also got phenomenal horse flesh in his stable, and he knows what he's doing with every single one of them. So I think Chad Brown will win this thing. And again, going away. I think there's 2 routes this summer.
Yeah, Chad will just draw off. He's got all the horses for the right spots. He counts on coming here and winning the title. Plans on it way in advance. He's got all of his horses here where Brad's spread around a lot more. It's not even going to be close.
Who's more likely to win the title in their respective category, Erod Ortiz Jr. or Chad Brown?
Chad.
Well, Chad. Yeah, Chad has more control of his own destiny. He's the more likely of the 2.
Mm-hmm.
One's 3 to 5, one's 4 to 5.
Okay, how about this? If Erod Ortiz Jr. isn't going to win, the 2 guys at the top of the list, Flavien Prat and his brother Jose, which of those 2 would you see emerging as the top jockey this meet?
I'd say Jose because he's got probably more daily business. You know, he doesn't mind riding a complete card and has the business to do it. So I would say on numbers, at the end of the day, he'll probably ride more horses than Flavien. And if I had to take one of the other 2, I'd pick him.
And you got to look at who's going to be going out of town. I mean, I know Pratt is probably going to Pacific Classic, I would think, to ride Nyxos. I don't know what Jose's plans are with Kentucky Downs. And a lot of these guys headed out for Kentucky Downs last year, but the schedule is different this year. You know, Kentucky Downs is running on Travers Day. They're not going to leave for – none of them are going to leave for Travers for Kentucky Downs. So I think it's going to be a photo finish between if you're picking between Flavien and Jose, I think it's a photo finish of who finishes second behind Irad, who's going to win by a pole, in my opinion.
Yeah, interesting. A lot of racing left to be done at the Spa and a lot of things yet to be decided. One thing that has been decided is the new Kentucky Downs wagering menu. We're going to talk about that as we welcome our friend Nick Zito to the program, and you get to tell me, guys, if the following statement is right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
Okay, Kentucky Downs, guys, introduced a new wagering menu this week when the track opens on August 29th. Changes include a $5 minimum on all win, place, and show wagers, along with a $5 late double, a $3 late pick 3, and $5 minimum on exactas in the last race. Takeout on pick 3s, 4s, and 5 wagers will be reduced to 15%. So I ask you, are these moves right or wrong for horse players?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale, you're a Kentucky guy. What do you think?
I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's right or if it's wrong. It's interesting. I can't believe it's taken this long for any track to do it. I mean, the $2 wage has been around for how long? Ever since I can remember. So let's go back to the early 1900s when Timmy first started betting horses. They were just betting $2. And so it's interesting. I think it's probably right. I think you adjust for inflation. We're still behind what it was when it was the original $2 bet.
I think it's wrong because you want to attract new blood into the game or new people. You can bet $5 if you want. You can go that high. But, the average Joe that just goes to the track with his family, you're going to turn off the family guy that wants to just go to the track and put his $2 across the board on a horse. And, they can't afford it, maybe, I just think it's wrong to try to milk more money out of some of these poor people. And, if you want to bet higher, you can. You've always been able to do that. But I think they should still be able to allow the $2 bettor to be able to come to the track and bet his $2. Like grandma comes to the track, she wants to bet her $2. I think that should still be in play.
I should still be able to buy my $1 gasoline, too.
Yeah, but that's different, Dale. You don't have a choice there, right? You don't have any control over that. But what Timmy's saying, Tim, I agree with you, actually. I think if you keep the $2 minimum, people can choose to bet 5 or 10 or 20 to win. It doesn't matter. You can bet 1,000 to win. But as long as you have the option for somebody that goes to the racetrack and wants to play a $2 show pool with their family, and they start with $2 and they let it ride, and I think that $2 minimum is important.
Should they cut it to $1?
See, I like 2.
I like 2.
All right, I like 5.
Well, Timmy, do you feel that way about all of the pools that he mentioned, or just win, place, and show?
I think all of them.
Okay. You're really giving a better deal anyway, but when you cut the takeout. Would you rather bet $2 on a higher takeout or 5 on a lower takeout, Tim?
Well, myself, I bet 5, but I'm talking about the average first.
Right, but if you had if they were changing the rules and they're lowering the takeout but raising the minimum, which is best for the horse player? I'll say lowering the takeout because you're playing against the VIG all day anyway. That's your pari-mutuel, so you're giving
lowering the takeout is always better. Yeah, lowering the takeout is always the better option.
Right.
Amen.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. All right, we're going to bring Nick Zito back for that topic next week. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out at Kentucky Downs, by the way, when they open their doors August 29th. We're going to talk more about that with the folks at Kentucky Downs in the weeks ahead, so stay tuned for that. Angela, topic number 5 will wind us down before we get to our Showdown 5 update.
Yes, we have another one regarding riders. Now, Hall of Fame jockey Javier Castellano replaces regular rider Junior Alvarado aboard defending champion Fort Washington in today's Arlington Million. Alvarado has elected to stay at Saratoga, where he's named on mounts in 8 races later today. What does his decision say about the repeat chances of Fort Washington this afternoon? Tim?
Well, Angela, what I think it says is that he wants to stay here because his main man, Bill Mott, has him named on 5 of those. Or is it? No, 5. Yeah, 5 of those horses. He's his main client. And he's staying here to ride for Bill. I think that, there's a bunch of riders that are leaving Saratoga to go to ride at Colonial. Manny Franco, Johnny V, Tyler Gaffleone, and Javier Castellano, who I believe has got the mount on Fort Washington now.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Junior after he won the dinner party down at Laurel for the 2nd year in a row. That was sort of a surprise, I think, a little bit, because this year Fort Washington hasn't really set the world on fire. I mean, he was 7th in the Wise Dan. He was 4th in the Canadian Turf, 6th in the Pegasus World Cup Turf. He did win the dinner party. Maybe it's more advantageous for Junior to stay at Saratoga, where I think he's not any favorites, but he's staying loyal to Bill Mott, and I think you stay loyal to the person that butters your bread. So I don't know what it means for Fort Washington's chances, because I never dismissed something Chuck McGahee sent to a big race, but I'm saying that Junior's staying here because of his loyalty to Bill.
That's exactly why he's staying. He knows where he needs to be. It's not a knock on Fort Washington, but it may say $1 million in what it used to be. You can stay right here and ride a few horses and get close.
Maybe so. We'll see how this plays out for Fort Washington in that Arlington Million. Javier Castellano, certainly a capable replacement for Junior Alvarado in that race. Okay, time for our Showdown 5 scoring update before we bring you our final point of the week and wind down this edition of I Ask the Answer. Tim, last week, you joined me at the top of the scoring, at the top of the leaderboard with Counting Stars winning the Coaching Club American Oaks. You and I both have 10 points. Dale is sitting in second with 7. Angela doesn't have any, but boy, is she loaded today. Angela has Burnham Square, Supercharger in the Secretariat. I have Commandment in the Jim Dandy. Tim, you have Renegade in the Jim Dandy.
Good luck, fellas.
Well, good luck to all of you. I like my shots in there. Got to take you on in the Amsterdam, Dale, but I think I've got some good ammo, especially with Burnham Square.
Dale, you don't seem concerned about any of this.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I told you I started to drop out of this competition because it bored me. It's too easy.
So, I mean, but if you were to lose this, does that just reinvigorate you or what? Or do you just retire and...
No, it might energize me. I might come back and actually study next year.
Well, get ready, Dale.
Wow, we got some little cockiness from out in the great Northwest would be, or where are you in the great Midwest? Where are you?
We're in Minnesota. We're our own special little region in the upper Midwest.
No, okay, up in the Midwest. Hasn't even started snowing there yet.
Yeah, just give it a couple of months.
Well, we're going to find out how this plays out later today. But for the meantime, it is Timmy and I at the top of the standings with 10 points apiece. Time for our final point of the week. And Tim Wilkin, you have the honors.
Well, during the Saratoga meet, I work for the Thoroughbred Daily News. And this week, I think next coming Monday or Tuesday will be my first popular Q&A. The first one was done a couple years ago. The first one ever done was Dale Roman. But my first one this year is on John Velasquez. It's going to be a good read, so you should check it out.
Awesome. Dale?
Well, my final point is that my good friend and colleague for many, many years, Robbie Alvarado, had a heart attack on Thursday. He's doing well. Talked to him yesterday, and I just want to wish him all the best. He's a good man.
Yes, indeed.
Yep. Yeah, I saw he had a stint put in, and we wish Robbie all the best. We're thinking about you, brother.
Yes, speedy recovery to you, Robbie, and hope you're back at it soon.
Yep. All right, guys, appreciate it. We're going to do this all over again next Saturday. Enjoy the weekend.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Angela. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
You want to hear Dale and Tim debate a topic of yours? You can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, or post it on our social media pages. We'll do our best to work it into the show going forward. I Ask the Answer is presented by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program, and the College of Business. We're back with more, including the answer to this week's Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question next. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
Here we go.
Come on, boys. Good luck. And they're off. Be part of the story. Own the moment. Go to MojoRacingPartners.com to get your mojo working.
Life is loud. It's also fun. Hearing Health Foundation wants us to listen responsibly so we can hear all the things we love for life. Did you know that decibels measure sound intensity? But we just need to know that if it sounds too loud, it is too loud. And this can permanently harm our hearing. And it's not just about the volume, it's also about the duration, or how long we're wearing headphones to listen to music or play video games. So let's enjoy the concerts, the nights out, and the time with friends by listening smart. Let's protect our ears with earplugs. Earplugs are cool. And let's rest our ears by taking breaks in quiet, and we can turn it down even a little to help save our hearing a lot. Hearing Health Foundation wants us to keep listening to the sounds we love for life. Learn more and get more tips at hhf.org/keep listening.
We don't want you on our team. You're too slow and fat.
This is weight bias.
Don't you care how you look?
Those with the serious disease called obesity face weight bias every day.
You're not the right fit for this job.
And blame themselves.
I wish I was different.
Weight bias hurts.
Let's stop weight bias. Be part of the solution.
Go to stopweightbias.com. A public service message from Obesity Action Coalition.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go. Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fan favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss Discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Magnitude rolling in the Stephen Foster Stakes is on the cover of the August issue of Blood Horse, which is out now. Also in the August issue is a retrospective on Tom Fool and his regular rider, Ted Atkinson, a look at the successes of Centennial Farms, and much more. A Blood Horse subscription is a must-read for any true racing enthusiast. Visit bloodhorse.com/subscribe to grab your print or digital subscription today. And for a limited time, receive a free Blood Horse branded tote with your subscription or renewal. The Blood Horse magazine is the premier monthly publication of the thoroughbred industry.
Angela, I think we pretty much covered it all here this morning. I don't know what we could have missed. Talking about racing at Colonial Downs with the Arlington Million program. We talked about Saratoga. We talked with Michael McCarthy about the Clement L. Hirsch. And then Joe Kristufek had us covered with the races at Ellis Park. We've covered an awful lot of ground over the course of these 3 hours. And we have one more item to get to. That is the Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia Question answer, which Lee Delapina has right now.
Thank you, Mike. Out of 141 career starts, how many races did Jim Dandy actually win? The answer is 7. He actually won less than 5% of all races in his entire career and finished dead last in over half of them. But his upset win over Gallant Fox in the 1930 Travers Stakes was enough to immortalize him in racing history. Thanks to Mojo Racing Partners for this week's Impossible Trivia question. Get your mojo working at mojoracingpartners.com.
I told you it was an easy one.
Oh, be honest. You said 6. We talked about this beforehand. It was 7, but
I actually guessed 5. I did guess 5. In full disclosure.
Well, just like any horse player, too. As long as you win when it counts and press on those strong opinions, that's what matters. And it matters that he won when he did and beat Gallant Fox. We'll forever remember his name because of that. And thanks to Lee for filling us in.
I got to tell you, going back to what we were just talking about with Dale and Tim, one of the topics where you asked the question, you asked them about Irad Ortiz Jr., who had that magical day last Saturday with that 6-win day. But then the chances of that momentum carrying him to the leading jockey title again this year, he spotted Flavien Prat and Jose Ortiz, his brother, some significant ground. So he has his work cut out for him, but Dale and Tim were convinced he's going to walk away as the top jock this meet. I don't know. I'm not sold.
The waters are deep in that jock's room, so it's really hard to imagine anybody running away with it. But sometimes Irad just wins those races that you don't even see coming, and they put him 1 ahead, 2 ahead, and eventually you see that lead just grow, and you go, well, I guess that all makes sense now. But Irad, it constantly wins those honors with rides like that and with seasons like he's having at Saratoga.
Thanks to all of our guests for making this show possible here this morning. To all of you for joining us. If you missed any portion, check out the podcast on our website or your favorite podcast platform. For Angela Herman, I'm Mike Penna. Our thanks to Lee Delapina in our studio, Chauncey for handling all of our social media. We'll talk to you again next week. Go Steelers.